and weasels who were brought over to eliminate New Zealand's rabbit problem. The first ever Lions captain, Robert Seddon, died of drowning midway through the tour while sculling on a river. Andrew Stoddart, who was another of the cricketers there, took over and was the star of the tour. The next one was the first to get official recognition from the RFU against the newly formed Springboks. Although the Lions won the series and beat the Boks again 5 years later, in the 12 series since in South Africa, they've only won 2. New Zealand has proved an even tougher hunting ground, just the 1 series win for the Lions in 11 attempts, which came in 1971. And then there was that nail-shredding drawn series in 2017, only the second in Lions history. Only once have the Lions clinched a series after losing the first test, 1989, when David Campese's infamous ghost pass was pounced upon by Ian Evans. Before World War II, the Lions had a dark blue strip, which on the 1930 tour forced the All Blacks to play in all white. So in 1950, the iconic red shirts, white shorts and blue and green socks combination was born. It remains the symbol of the greatest alliance of adversaries in all of sport. To borrow the phrase from Jim Telfer, the Lions is Everest.
Good morning, this is Game Day Breakfast. I'm Natalie Sawyer and with me it is the former Republic of Ireland striker Tony Cascarino.
Good morning.
What a day of sport we have to look forward to. What weekend, in fact. The British and Irish Lions look to take a commanding 2-0 lead in the series, which of course would clinch the series against the Wallabies in Melbourne today. Coach Andy Farrell knows how important a win will be.
We're the privileged ones that get the opportunity to do something special and hopefully create a bit of history. There's a determined Australian side that's in our way that's going to try and stop us to do that, so it's a hell of a test.
We're bringing you that live on talkSPORT today, as we are with the Lionesses, who are in action tomorrow. They're into their third consecutive major final as they look to avenge their World Cup defeat to Spain. Even Serena Wiegman doesn't know how she's been so successful.
I actually don't know. I think I've worked with incredible people, staff, incredible football players, and what I'm just trying to do is create an environment where everyone can be at her best and at his best too, because I'm trying to do that with staff too and create this environment where we take action and mistakes are part of our journey.
And with just a few weeks to go until the new season starts, where will Alexander Isak end up? The Newcastle striker has told the club that he wants to explore options elsewhere and is looking for a move this summer. The latest transfer news on the way. How are you, Cass?
I'm very good. A lovely week. Ended brilliantly yesterday, Nat, with came in second in a Pro-Am in the golf. Not me personally, my team.
Oh, okay.
It was at Woodcote Park Golf Club, which is in Causden. The club pro, Ben St John, done a great job. I was with Adam G, who was our pro for the day, and it was a great day. I actually played all right, which is a change for me, but we come second, Nat. So
nice.
It was a great weather, great barbecue afterwards.
Lovely.
And by the way, I've never met Paul Clement up until a month ago. I met him on the tube in London.
Told me about
right?
this,
I met Paul Clement on the tube. Yesterday I meet him again. Bumped into him. It's like, Hello, Paul. Because the last time I met him, he was going to the Brazilian embassy to because he was going to come Carlo Ancelotti's number. To get his visa to become the assistant with Carlo Ancelotti for Brazil. So I bumped into him.
Small world, isn't it?
Isn't it weird when you don't?
It is.
I've never met him before, and then within a month I've met him twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
by the way, before we start talking about one of the big stories for the last sort of 24, 48 hours, if anyone's watching right now on YouTube or streaming services, you will see the lovely spectacles that Cass is wearing. How do we describe these? I mean, you're giving Elton John a bit of a run for his money right now.
I know, I've got to I've never been hooked on cars, Nat. I've never had really with watches or anything really. But glasses,
Spectacles?
Spectacles I've sort of gone crazy on in the last year or two.
You've got a brown
pair.
But like a similar sort of like thickness
style,
of frame.
Yeah.
Purple pair. And now these are what? Turquoise.
I was going to say greeny blue.
Yeah, turquoise.
Turquoise. Sorry, Nat. Yeah, mixing the two. Yeah. So and they change with the light on the
so
lenses.
they can be sunglasses as well.
So I really like them.
No, they're great.
Yeah,
they're very good. You're very brave with your choice.
Yeah, I like it. I'm getting out there now as I get a little bit older. Got to do it.
Oh God! What else is going to come? We'll see. We'll see. Right.
What about you? Your week?
Oh, my week was bog standard, quite boring.
Oh, we're bouncing off it.
I know. I don't know why this is shaking so much, this microphone. But anyway, a very boring week for me. But no, apart from going out with a friend for dinner, which was lovely. But that's about it, really. Let's get straight into it, shall we? With Alexander Isak. Widely reported that he wants to explore his options for a move away from Newcastle this summer, and he has missed their pre-season tour of Asia. They selected a 30-man squad, but said that the Sweden striker will miss out due to a minor thigh injury. Scored 27 goals in 42 appearances in all competitions for Newcastle last season. Very much a hero then in the North East. Craig Hope is the North East correspondent for the Daily Mail. He has been bringing us right up to speed with everything he knows on the situation.
He's a good character, and Gabby used the word ambition now. A player shouldn't be penalised or labelled a bad egg just because they've got ambition. And Alexander Isak and his journey at Newcastle, has it reached expiry? Well, maybe it has, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. He's given Newcastle 3 brilliant years. He scored one of the goals in the final, ironically, against Liverpool, which ended the 70-year wait for a domestic trophy. Yeah. And if he knows he's worth more than Newcastle can pay him on the open market, and he undoubtedly is, he could command a greater wage than Newcastle can currently pay him, and he doesn't want to play in the Champions League. He wants to win the Champions League. He's that good, So I don't have an issue with that. But the problem he's got, in Newcastle have got to a degree, is now to make a sale, you need a buyer. Liverpool have got to come with the funds. Newcastle's in a strong position. Alexander Isak's got 3 years to run his contract. So if a deal is to happen, the player wants it to happen. We believe Liverpool want it to happen. They've got to come with the money. Otherwise, it won't. They've got to come with that British record somewhere around 130, 140, 150 million pounds.
I did him a disservice there. He's now a chief football reporter for the Daily Mail. So he's very much in the know, very well connected in the North East as well. A couple of days ago when Liverpool signed Hugo Ekitike, there would have been a few Newcastle fans thinking, phew.
Sigh of relief.
Yeah, it's all good. It doesn't feel like it now, obviously, with what's happening. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, when you have a player that has made it clear that he wants to search for pastures new, it's a difficult one because, the strange thing about all this is, Nat, that you always hear the narrative is if you get Champions League football, it's easier to keep players and entice others to come. Mm-hmm. Well, with Newcastle, it's not really the case, is it? They found it very difficult to make signings, and they've also got their best player, who's had his head turned, wanting to search for another team or said explore another avenue, I think the line was. So it's a really tricky one. I'm not a fan, and I've always used this line, I'm not a fan of keeping players that don't want to play for my football club or any football club. I think it's very hard to keep players and get the very best out of them and the high level that's required when they think it's greener elsewhere. And I think it's a hard one.
We have seen it, though, where players have been in that situation before, where they've made it clear they want to leave. Excuse me. And there's been a a sort of meeting of the parties all involved, and they've ended up staying at that club. But how hard do you think it will be for him to reconsider and stay when a club potentially of Liverpool's standard, who are, excuse me, striking while the iron's hot, how hard is it to turn that down? Well, if Liverpool come in for this big bid.
Oh, obviously, at 26 years old now, there's opportunities that come along your way, and it can be an exciting challenge, and you think it might not be there in 2 years' time. Yeah. That opportunity might not be to join Liverpool or Manchester United or Barcelona, whoever, one of the big clubs in Europe. And Newcastle are a really big club and gets huge support, and he's had an exciting journey there. But he obviously thinking about winning things. Are Newcastle going to win the Premier League? Not very unlikely. Are they going to be a Champions League winner? Very unlikely. But he could see a club like Liverpool doing both.
And that's the difference.
And that is
You're
the difference.
Right in the sense of the huge support that Newcastle have. I mean, it's incredible. Excuse me, I've got tickle in my throat.
Well, I think that there is a difference between clubs that can win that and other clubs that potentially can get closer. But for Isak, the time is now. And at 26 years old, you're in prime position to go and have a drink of water now.
Oh, honestly, I just give up. Oh, crikey.
I've been there myself, so don't worry about it.
Whatever it is. But the problem is, obviously, this has a knock-on effect. It actually affects my club because now Johan Wissa is a player that's been linked with this move to Newcastle. So it does have this annoying knock-on effect, unfortunately. But, I mean, you do have to have some sympathy for Newcastle. You've touched on, they won the Carabao Cup last season. An incredible achievement for a club that had been starved of domestic success for so very, very long. You would have thought then that would be the knock-on, that would be the kick-on for this club, that they would build on that. But now it looks like they're potentially losing one of their biggest stars, if not their biggest star.
Yeah.
So you do have to have some sympathy for them.
Look, what happened? Look, if they lose Isak, then who did they go for? And Sesko is obviously an option because if they got the sort of fee that they would get for Isak, they could certainly go after Sesko. So they could get a replacement that, okay, we don't know. I've always used Kevin Keegan as my example because he left Liverpool in 77 and we got Kenny Dalglish. Now, there are examples of Suarez came in. Now, okay, Sesko's a long way off from being what Isak is at the moment. I like the lad Larsson at Wolves. I think he could. I'm surprised no one's actually gone in for him, and I've heard there's interest, but I actually like him. I think he offers a different threat for Newcastle that would suit the way they play. But you've also got a lot of money to use to go and find a striker that some clubs won't be able to afford because they're spending. Look, I mean, Liverpool, it's gone crazy. I can't believe what I'm witnessing from Liverpool, how much spending has gone on.
Well, this is it. I mean,
but they can do it because of what they've won, what they've achieved. Their revenue is nearly up to 700 million in a year. So you can see why Liverpool can do this.
They're spending it.
Well, they are now, but they've also got Luis Diaz is very close to leaving.
Which you'd be.
I don't want to lose Luis Diaz. I think he's a great player, but Bayern Munich are nearly on the verge of getting him. Okay, there's Harvey Elliott, there's Nunez, there's probably one or two others that could be used as well. So they can make this deal work if they needed to.
I mean, it's ridiculous when you're considering what Liverpool are doing this summer.
Yeah, it's frightening.
I mentioned striking while the iron's hot. That is what they're doing. But that iron surely is just going to get hotter and hotter over the next few seasons, isn't it? With the strength of this Liverpool squad. Yeah. It's quite ominous for everybody else.
Yeah, it is. But Manchester United for years did that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm not
Manchester
saying it's a bad
United
thing,
went and bought top players regularly, and every time they needed to fill gaps
from their rivals a lot.
And they got Fergie got players from everywhere, didn't he? From Van Nistelrooy to Berbatov, many others, Van Persie.
I was going to say,
he did it regularly. If he needed to fill a spot and thought it was the best option for the club, he went and did it and broke a number of records.
So before we move on, then, as I've mentioned, it's all coming from Isak's camp. Newcastle have said they don't want to sell.
Yeah.
But if it becomes a fractured relationship of some sort, is it inevitable that he will have to leave, in your eyes, or can it be mended?
I'm not a fan of keeping players and going into next season thinking, I don't know what he's going to be. Imagine being Eddie Howe in this scenario and thinking, well, if we keep him and we force him to stay, am I getting the Isak that I've had for the last 2 years? or am I getting a guy that's had his head turned and he's now gone with a minor injury, apparently? Yeah, a minor injury, which is clearly like he doesn't want to be around the camp.
Well, like I say, it has a knock-on effect. Johan Wieser has been linked with Newcastle as well. He's not in the Portugal camp. Where Brentford are right now.
So it affects others as well.
Yeah, it has this awful knock-on effect. But listen, Newcastle fans, we'd love to hear from you this morning and how you feel about this. By the way, Mags, the Man United fan, thank you very much for your message. They say, morning guys, I remember when Ronaldo wanted to leave United, ended up staying an extra year and won the Champions League. So it does happen. No, and it does happen. Yeah, of course it happens. No, it does. It does.
Okay, but that was quite clearly and very well documented between Ronaldo and Fergie that you can go, but we'll let you go at the end of the season. Give me your all for that season. Yeah. And Ronaldo being, as what anybody thinks being an incredible pro, played to his absolute maximum that year, and he knew he was going to Madrid the year before, but eventually got there. So that's down to him. Not many players do that. That's really rare. That's an example, but a bad one, because that's really rare.
Well, Newcastle fans, we want to hear from you this morning and what you make of it. Has this made you emotional? The fact that he could be leaving just when you think you're on the cusp of building something, one of your biggest stars decides he wants to look elsewhere, just explore what else is out there. Now, the reason I'm kind of bringing this up is we all know that Brian Mbeumo finally left Brentford. It was a long, protracted move to Manchester United, but it happened this week. And bizarrely, trying to fit this into a very short space of time, when I found out that it was all signed and sealed, I happened to check on Instagram. I was in a car park, a supermarket car park of all places, and for some reason I checked Instagram before I went into the shop and saw Brian's video that he'd put on Instagram, which was his farewell to Brentford. Well, I've never cried so much in the car. I was sobbing my heart out because it was such a weirdly nice video that kind of summed up his career, and he was talking not only on the pitch but off the pitch, the connection he'd built with fans, etc. Honestly, I was bawling. I had my 14-year-old son next to me looking at me like, it's just a football player, Mum. I was like, you don't understand. It's because it was 6 years. And I was saying to my friends who are Brentford fans, I was like, I don't really know him. I've met him a few times. Lovely man. But I felt like I've lost my best friend.
I must admit, I mentioned him earlier. I did get very upset when Keegan left in 77. And at that time, you didn't know too much about Kenny Dalglish.
Yeah, but 77, how old are you in 77?
Yeah, I was 15. I was 15.
I mean, honestly, I did not...
Well, I don't know your age, Nat, but...
I'm clearly 21. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. And I can't even blame it on the time of the month or anything like that. I wasn't emotional for any reason. It just hit me and I just was crying my eyes out. So it's just made me think... Newcastle fans might echo this if it all happens with Isak. Tell us about the players that have made you cry. More so about them leaving and that connection you might have had with them. 81089 is the text number. You can WhatsApp us on 03717 223344. Leave us a voice note. Really, maybe use it as a cathartic experience. Just leave us that voice note. Let us know how you felt about it. Because like I said, wasn't expecting to cry as I did in a supermarket car park. Anyone around me must have thought, what is she doing?
So what are you asking for anyone who's got really upset about a player leaving, their name and why, and just how it got you?
Absolutely.
It got you.
That's why I think a voice note is even better, because you can really let it out in that way. Maybe you're not over it still. Okay, on the way, we are going to talk about Manchester City and a new goalkeeper perhaps heading their way. morning. This is Game Day Breakfast. Pleasure to have your company this Saturday morning. It is the former FA Cup finalist Tony Cascarino who is with me, Natalie Sawyer, and we're taking you through until 10 o'clock this morning. I can see a lot of people getting in touch already with the players that have made you cry. We'll come to them a little bit later on, but we want to get to this story first of all in the Daily Star, which reveals that the only foreign language phrase half of Brits have truly nailed is, what do you think we have to nail when we go abroad?
Oh, je ne sais pas.
No.
Go on.
Of course, it has to do with a beer. It has to do with a drink of some variety.
Okay.
A new poll has found. And nearly a third say they simply make up in another language when trying to converse with a local on holiday. I don't know what that means. Yeah.
Un beer? Un beer, s'il vous plaît?
Well, it's always beera or something, you know. In Bulgarian, it'd be Edna beera, molja, please. That's what you'd say. But it's always beera. So you kind of get away with it.
Yeah. Well, it's like... beer. But it's like a sandwich, isn't it? Like you go abroad, you say sandwich. You're like, really? But
I don't think I've ever had to go abroad and go sandwich.
Yeah, they still say things like sandwich, and the American words, hot dog, and things like burger. You know, they say cheese royale and in French for a quarter pounder.
You're
but
not going to America and saying, "Can I have a hot dog?"
No. But in other countries, a hot dog is a hot dog, even in France.
Yeah. I know what you mean. There are certain words that just can't be translated, and that's what they use. Yeah, I get you completely. It does not surprise me, though, that the first thing you want to nail is a drink. That's part of your holiday experience, isn't it, at the end of the day? So I get you. But anyway, that was in the Daily Star this morning. We'll get to Manchester City, who are set to re-sign the England under-21 goalkeeper James Trafford 2 years after he left the club to join Burnley. The 22-year-old has come through City's academy, was sold to the Clarets in a deal worth up to $19 million last summer. He's been impressive over the past few seasons, keeping 29 clean sheets in 45 championship games as Scott Parker's side secured promotion back to the Premier League. And his performances earned him a spot in the division's Team of the Year, as they like to do at the end of a season. Now, City did have a buyback clause and matching rights as part of that original deal, and they've chosen to activate those after Newcastle had made a £27 million bid. And he's opted to return to the Etihad, expected to sign a 5-year contract with the option of a further year. Kind of always baffles me. I get the buyback clause, but you sort of think, why? If you didn't want him in the first place, why? I get it. No, I get it, but it just makes me think, well, why did you sell him? Well, you always thought you might want him back.
Well, I'm sure someone along the line at City has gone. I mean, look, you said at the start, he's 22-year-old now. So he went as a teenager, really, a very young man. So they might have looked at him and said, if he matures slightly, he gets better, let's have a buyback.
But why can't you send him out on loan then? You can still get the same maturity getting loan starts.
I mean, I don't know sometimes, Nat. I don't even know if... It's a strange one with Pep because he's always had this strange thing. When he first come to City and with the way he handled Joe Hart, he wanted him out literally the day he walked into the club. But he sort of... Last year's been a challenging one where Ortega was playing, wasn't he? And then Edison, you felt he'd fallen out of love. He was one time the world's number one alongside Alisson. They were two great goalkeepers, no one could choose between the two. But it feels like it's not the case today, and they've looked at him as a reasonable option to bring back. And by the way, he had an unbelievable season with Burnley last year because most people would go Egan Riley at centre-half and Maxine Esteve, who played centre-halves alongside him. They were the big reason why they kept so many clean sheets. And James Trafford was never really mentioned as a goalkeeper. Yeah. It was always about the defensive
centre-backs.
When the team set up have how they played, but the two centre-halves got all the accolades, mainly. No one really mentioned James Trafford. And I think what they've done, they probably had a really good look and thought he's matured because he's still really young for a goalkeeper at 22.
Yeah, very much so. But that's what in part of me thinks, well, why did you sell him then? If you always thought you would have an eye on him.
Maybe they were unsure and they felt like, well, if we have a buyback clause in the contract and we watch him, I'm sure they've watched a lot of him over the last 18 months and said, by the way, he's now a top-level goalkeeper. And they felt for 26 million, Nat?
I think 26, 27, something like that.
Is a very reasonable price for someone who might be the goalkeeper for the next 5 years. He might get the number one spot at City.
But next season, you don't expect him to be number one, do you?
Well, I wouldn't have thought so, but you never know with Guardiola and goalkeepers, because he clearly he's had this with wingers and fullbacks. He's always changed a hell of a lot them positions, and he's done quite a lot with the goalkeepers over the last few years as well. You know, Edison was in and out last year at times, Nat, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
So...
I'm going to just read a couple of messages out. If that's all right.
Who's crying over?
Well, first of all, just before we kind of bring you a couple of options of players that made you cry, Sammy, the Manchester United England fan, says, are players not expected to respect their contracts and take part in pre-season training? And yes, of course, there is that element, but there will always be that occasion where they might sometimes say it's probably not best for you to be involved. So hence... Maybe with the Isak situation, they're saying it's a thigh injury. The Wissa thing is he's not in the right state to be involved, so he needs to head back. And that's the other issue you have. Sometimes it's better for them not to be involved. Yeah. Hence why we're seeing that perhaps.
Who's that message from?
Sammy.
Well, Sammy, one of the issues is, and one of the problems comes from this, is that clubs will choose to sell players and they've got 3 years to run. And it doesn't matter if they go, well, we've agreed a fee and you can go. And the players are now doing a similar thing. If they've got 3 years to go on a contract, they can turn around and say, well, I want to go. So it's a twofold problem, that.
Yeah.
It's hard keeping when a club can do that, can go and sell you on, and, you know, and it benefits them. So now players are just doing the opposite and going, well, it benefits me now if I move on. And I want to move on.
Jill, who is a United fan, says, I get it. It's okay to cry over football. For me, it wasn't about leaving, but the end of Paul Scholes' career.
Oh, yeah.
Loved him in midfield, but yeah, that one got Jill pretty emotional. Let us know. Ronnie, I'm going to come to yours in a little while. He's listed quite a few from his club that have left in Dundee. We'll come to that a little bit later on. Dundee. Wow. But this is what we want. Yeah. Share the stories, because actually a lot of us might go, didn't even know they played for that club.
Yeah, well, there's
so
always
that's what
someone
I want to know. Yeah, exactly.
Start their careers.
So do let us know, 81089, or WhatsApp us on 03717 223344, where you can leave us a voice note on the players that have left you heartbroken. This after I sobbed my heart out when Brian Mbermo put out his farewell video when he left Brentford this week. Wasn't expecting to cry, but I did. Okay, on the way next, it's the final weekend in Formula E, and we're in London.
Corinthian Casuals are a team in the Combined Counties League Premier Division South. Despite that, they're one of the most important clubs in world football. Here's why. The club was formed in 1939 as the result of a merger between Corinthians FC and Casuals FC. Now, Corinthians FC were founded in the late 1800s when the FA's top brass were absolutely sick of getting pumped by Scotland every time they played them. As a result, Nicholas Lane Jackson set up an amateur side which would bring in the best players who could all play for the national side. And it worked. It wasn't long before England were dominating the international fixtures they played, and it was largely down to Corinthians. In fact, in 1894 and 1895, they played consecutive games where Corinthians provided the entire England 11.
But the thing is, the players refused to play professional football. They didn't believe in it. They wanted to spread the values of sportsmanship, competition, and played for the love of the game. It also helped most of the players were Oxbridge graduates who didn't need the money, but instead of entering league and cup competitions, they played exhibition football and toured the world, bringing the beautiful game with them. Think of it like the Harlem Globetrotters of football, and it was this which spread the game throughout the world and made it so popular. Most famously, in 1910, they travelled to Brazil, and the locals in Sao Paulo were so impressed they started their own team under the same name. Yes, the same Corinthians who won the FIFA Club World Cup in 2021, one of the biggest clubs in Brazil.
$10K for Coldplay.
Good morning. This is Game Day Breakfast with a man who was once offered 12 tracksuits. That's Tony Cascarino, who is with me, Natalie Sawyer. And yes, Coldplay are back at Wembley this summer. We've got a huge VIP prize up for grabs for one lucky listener. We're giving you the chance to win 6 tickets in a private box for you and your mates. That's on August the 22nd with full hospitality. That is right up my street. Plus, we're chucking in 10 grand spending money. That too. Completely tax-free. Here's how you enter. It's 80 and over, UK excluding Northern Ireland, I'm afraid. All you have to do is text the word WIN to 83338. That by the 4th of August by 11 p.m. and that's it. You'll be in the draw. Text costs you £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission, or you can post your name and number to Coldplay Competition, P.O. Box 3190, Colchester, CO2 8GP. That has to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 7th of August. This is a TalkSPORT limited promotion run on TalkSPORT Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's are at talksport.com. OK, Formula E returns this afternoon with live commentary of the penultimate race of the season from London's Excel Centre. It'll be on TalkSport 2 from 5. So joining us to talk through what we can expect, as well as a bit of F1 action as well, because we're in Belgium for that. We're joined by TalkSport's motorsports reporter, John Jackson. John, good morning. How are you?
Hi, John.
Very good, thank you. I'm probably the closest I've been this season while we've talked about this, because I'm just down the road at the Excel Centre.
I was thinking that. Yeah, you were not on some exotic travels that you've been on.
Do we?
No.
We need to thank you.
Yes, we do.
But the first thing I wanted to say, you did get the chocolate, right? Because
yes,
we talked about chocolate in Berlin.
We were going to say
Feastables.
They were great.
Yeah.
So anything going in the Excel, we'll have it. All right.
I have to say, after telling you that Feastables were the official snacking partner of Formula E, which is the first time I've seen a motorsports championship partner with a chocolate brand, there's not been many Feastables around this time. So I feel like Berlin was an abundance of Feastables, and this time I've not seen anything. But it's obviously the Excel Centre is now Europe's leading and biggest convention centre. They've extended it, and weirdly out the back, just behind where I am here, and it's pretty impressive. So the race is inside and outside the Excel Centre. So there's huge amounts of seating in there, which is great because I think they've sold it out for both days, which is impressive. But also you've got the other side of the halls where you can have like the fan area. So there's all kinds of food stalls and there's all kinds of activations that these brands do. So I'm feeling like there's going to be a lot of free stuff going. So I am actually going to do a little, I'll do a little plunder of all the free samples this morning. So I can report back tomorrow morning, perhaps.
Yeah, we look forward to that.
John, we've come to the end of this weekend, the end of the Formula E season. So is there still anything up for grabs? Apart from the chocolate.
I'm hoping there's chocolate and hopefully some sweets as well. We've got the weekend is kind of set up because we obviously in motorsports have the Drivers' World Championship. We also have the Teams Championship. And in Formula E, we also have the Manufacturers Championship. So that means, we have customer teams of manufacturers and they kind of club them together to make another championship. But for me, it's all about the Teams Championship this weekend. We have Nissan, which is obviously a powerhouse of Japanese automotive strength, and they are one of the sort of automotive brands that's putting electric mobility at the forefront of kind of what they're doing in the future. They're launching electric cars right, left and centre, and it has a big impact on the UK as well, because the new Nissan Leaf that we were shown yesterday is made in Sunderland, and we know that a lot of people in Sunderland work for Nissan, so it's hugely important that does well and we keep people in jobs as the automotive industry is a little bit tricky in places. And then we have them versus Porsche. They obviously, the Germans who take things incredibly seriously. And, they've both got amazing names in motorsport. And this weekend, they're both fighting it out. And there's a slight gap between them, with Porsche having a lead going into the weekend. But anything can happen in Formula E, and we have 2 races as well. So that's the narrative this weekend, because we actually settled the Drivers' World Championship in Berlin, which we talked about. We have a new British champion in Oliver Rowland, which is super cool, because he's a real man of the people, and we can kind of celebrate a guy that's come from having not a lot, to be honest. Most motor racing drivers have to find their money from somewhere, and some are lucky enough to have rich parents, and some have sponsors, and some come from a real working class background. And Oliver Rowland is very much that kind of guy, always trying to work out where the next bit of money is going to come from to fund his career. And he actually won the championship back in Berlin. And you may have a clip that I sent in of him doing that live on talkSPORT too.
Behind Verne comes Ollie Rowland to be crowned your Season 11 World Champion. He's had 4 victories, and he'll head back into home soil, the champion.
Oliver, this is Tommaso. You are an amazing comeback, the best comeback in the sport, world champion. And we have a special message for you.
Daddy, you're the world champion!
Oh, thanks, Pops. Love you.
Oh my goodness, that last bit, John. That was his daughter, wasn't it? His 4-year-old daughter.
That's his daughter, Harper. He said, thanks, Harps, by the way. I think it sounds like he says something else, but I guarantee you he's saying thanks, Harps. Yeah, the team sprung that on him. And I think he did tell me afterwards, actually, that he was already crying as he crossed the line, because he's a Yorkshireman, and he's been very stoic in his approach to, I'm not the champion yet. And we've spoken about him a few times this year, and I've told you that he's had, at one point, the biggest ever lead in a Formula E championship, because it is one of those championships where F1, that you tend to have drivers dominating, like we're going to talk about Oscar Piastri in a minute. In Formula E, it tends to be a little less dominant for one driver, but Ollie's been incredible this year. And the team, they planned to have this message from his daughter played to make him cry, but I think he was already sobbing as he came over, because he's been very, very stern about his chances, even though he knew that he had one hand on the trophy for most of the season.
There's a lot. The theme this morning is a lot of tears. Natalie talked about tears of Brian Mbeumo, and
unexpected tears though they were.
Yeah.
I mean, what I love as well, he's spoken about how he went to Legoland to sort of celebrate with his wife and daughter, and now he said he's going to take his team to Ibiza. He knows what to do.
Yeah,
he's a good one.
He also went to Oasis in Manchester the other day, and they're filming this documentary that's called Driver. It's kind of like the Drive to Survive version of Formula E. It's on Amazon Prime, and he was a little bit in the first season, and they're filming the second season now. And they went up to Barnsley to film him with his family, obviously celebrating, and he basically kicked him out halfway through the day because he had tickets to Oasis, and obviously they weren't allowed to come along because you can't get a ticket for Oasis at the moment. So I was chatting to the team from the people filming that, and they're absolutely gutted. They thought they were going to be getting in the van and going with him to Heaton Park, or I think it was Heaton Park, wasn't it, in Manchester? And no, he just kicked him out because he wanted to have fun with his mates. But 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning, straight after the second race, he's got his flights to Ibiza booked, and he's taking the team away. They're going to have a good time. And actually, this happened 2 years ago when Jake Dennis, another British driver, won. He did the same. So it's become a bit of a British tradition that they just take their kind of mechanics away on holiday for a bit of an ease up.
Good.
So good.
You did mention the Grand Prix in F1 in Spa in Belgium. So a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, and obviously we've had all eyes on Red Bull for the last couple of weeks after Christian Horner left. It wasn't maybe a surprise, but it was certainly surprising timing to do it after the British Grand Prix. And you have to respect that Christian Horner has made that team what it is, the Red Bull team, and he's been there for over 20 years until his recent departure. So all eyes has been on them, really, because they've got a new guy, Laurent Mekies, who's been actually in Formula One, and he's worked for many different teams. He's even worked for the governing body, the FIA. So he's hugely respected, and it's going to be fascinating to see what he can do. But while all eyes are on Red Bull, McLaren have just been continuing their dominance with Oscar Piastri getting the pole position for this afternoon's sprint race, and not just getting pole position. This is the thing in motorsport. It might not sound like half a second is a long time, but half a second between him and the next best driver, who was Max Verstappen in Red Bull, is absolutely huge. And Oscar Piastri's really just everything is coming together for him. I've said since the start of this season, we sat down with Gunther Steiner, former Haas team principal, and we kind of agreed that we thought Oscar Piastri was going to win the championship. And a lot of people were saying on talkSPORT, I think talkSPORT listeners, that we're crazy that Lando Norris is going to win. And Lando was 0.6 of a second off Oscar Piastri, it's kind of a gulf in the world of motorsport, and it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in this sprint race today, and of course in the Grand Prix tomorrow, and see if Oscar can extend his lead.
And tell us, I mean, look, no one was necessarily thinking Lewis Hamilton would win the World Championship this year in his move to Ferrari, but it doesn't feel as though it's quite gone according to plan for him.
No, I was just watching his interview that he did yesterday with ESPN for the American market, and Lewis Hamilton is always very gracious when he speaks to the cameras, but you can tell when Lewis is really upset and really not in the great frame of mind, and starting 18th for the sprint race. And if you remember, he won a sprint race earlier this season. It's kind of the only success he's had since he moved to Ferrari this season. He was desperately trying to get his answers out and give the reporter something, but you could tell he didn't want to talk to anyone because he made a mistake. He locked up his rear wheels, which he kind of admitted it was probably the first time he's ever done that. It's a mistake that most drivers can get out of, but it ruined his lap. It meant that he went out of qualifying in the first section of 3, and he will start 18th while his teammate Charles Leclerc is starting from 4th place. So while he could say the car isn't very strong, he's also making a few mistakes here and there, and that's making him I genuinely feel Lewis is probably a little bit embarrassed with the situation, partly with the car and partly because of these mistakes, because this wasn't the fairy tale that he was dreaming of, moving to Ferrari, a team he's always wanted to drive for after a huge decision to leave Mercedes, and starting 18th. That doesn't look good at all. So let's hope he can make up some places, because we don't want to see, we don't like seeing stars fade, do we? But at the moment we're looking like he's fading a little bit. And it's maybe not all down to him, but I think he can put a bit of responsibility on this weekend's mistake on himself.
I mean, even just to get Ferrari as the winners of the Constructors would be something that he would want to help achieve as well. Very quickly, I just wanted to ask you, John, in terms of Oliver Rowland, obviously celebrating winning the Formula E championships, what is the connection like with F1? I mean, is there ever a chance that he could move into F1? I know he was a young driver for Williams a few years ago, but can that ever happen, that step up?
It's happened before. So as you say, Oliver Rowland was very much on the junior pathway to F1. So in the structure of things, you generally have junior categories locally. So in the United Kingdom, we have GB3, which is a very high level championship, the highest level of single seater racing. And, kids can go into that from 16 years old, and they will then go to FIA F3, which is a worldwide F3 championship. Then you have F2, and then you have F1. And you have to bear in mind that the higher you go, the less chance you've probably got of making it to F1, really, because the competitiveness of the series. We saw Nick de Vries, who is a Formula E former world champion, move to, I think it was AlphaTauri back then, in Formula One. So it has happened that drivers have gone that way. Wasn't great for him. He kind of fell foul of the Red Bull family of not being very patient with young drivers, and found himself back in Formula E very, very quickly. For Oliver, it's a little bit late. He's 32 years old, so I wouldn't have thought he'd go across. But there's a young driver called Taylor Barnard who made the jump from F2 to Formula E this year, and he's driving with McLaren in Formula E. He, other than win a race, he's ticked off everything he possibly can in a Formula E season. He's been second, third, fastest lap, youngest ever pole position sitter in Formula E. And he made the jump from F2 when he realised that F1, the dream of F1, probably wasn't going to happen. And he's made a huge name for himself. And actually, he's going to move teams at the end of this season and remain in Formula E. But it's not out of the question that in a couple of years' time, if he continues this amazing form, he could potentially get F1 opportunities. He seems pretty happy in Formula E, though.
Can I just quickly ask this? How lucrative is Formula E compared to F1? Is there any comparison, or is it a country mile away?
There is a comparison. It's a gap, but the difference is in Formula E, let's say, compared to F2. F2, you're paying money to be in that team. You're paying approximately, I'd say, the minimum of £5 million, whether that comes from your own money or sponsorship to compete. Whereas Formula E, you are a paid driver. So there are drivers in Formula E on some very nice salaries, I have to say. And Oliver Rowland, I'm sure, will have got a very nice bonus for winning that championship. So while you might not be getting the 30 million a year that Lando Norris is getting from McLaren, I'm sure you'll be getting maybe a tenth of that in Formula E if you're a top driver. And I don't think, considering Formula E's been around for a lot less time than Formula One, it's necessarily a bad thing. And I certainly wouldn't mind £3 million a year.
No, I think we're all like that.
I'm sure obviously talkSPORT are paying you both more than £3 million a year.
Sure, absolutely. Doesn't mean we don't want some of the swag that you're going to get at the Excel later.
Well, I think we're going to talk again tomorrow morning, so I'll let you know if I've managed to get a goodie bag of
That'd
stuff.
be
And if
nice.
not, I'll maybe just drop it up on the Jubilee line.
Enjoy it this weekend.
Cheers,
We'll chat
John.
to you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much.
We will bring you updates of that F1 sprint race from 2 o'clock this afternoon here on talkSPORT, and then from 5 on talkSPORT 2, we're back in London for this live commentary of the Formula E. For more motorsport, take a look at the talkSPORT Driving YouTube channel as well. My dog swallowed up a load of Scrabble tiles, so I had to take her to the vet to get her checked out. There's been no word yet. That's from Martin in Manchester. I just wanted to read that one out. Cheers. On the way, transfer news. Good morning, this is Game Day Breakfast. It is the former Aston Villa and Gillingham striker Tony Cascarino who is alongside me, Natalie Sawyer, as we take you through until 10 o'clock this morning. And the British and Irish Lions take on the Wallabies in Melbourne today in the second test of their tour of Australia as they look to clinch the 3-match series. It's live on talkSPORT. Other headlines for you: Joe Root is up to second, quite incredible this, on the all-time test run scorers list as England have gained control over India after day 3 of the 4th test at Old Trafford. And Luke Littler survived a fight back from Andrew Gilding to set up a World Match Play semi-final against Josh Rock. We'll have more on that World Match Play a little bit later on. But we're also asking for you to get in touch this morning with the players who perhaps have left your club and have made you cry. This was because I just uncontrollably sobbed following the video that Brian Mbermo put out saying his farewell to Brentford earlier this week.
Emotional, and that.
Honestly. I mean, I am very emotional anyway. That is out of order. Don't now, because that'll make me cry, because there's a baby crying. I don't like it. Yeah, no, it was weird. I did not expect to have the feelings I had when I saw that video, but it just was weird. Didn't help also that I was in a supermarket car park, so then I had to compose myself going into the supermarket. But we've been asking for the players that have left you emotional as a result, whether that's through a text message, a WhatsApp, or even a voice note. This is what Dave, the Liverpool fan, has left us.
Not actually a player as such, but when Klopp left Liverpool, oh my God, it felt like I'd lost a member of the family. I was in mourning for about a week, but look how it turned out. Up the Reds, you'll never walk alone.
You see, that's good how it did turn out positively for you. And do you know what? I thought it couldn't get any lower, the Thomas Frank departure. I felt really the emptiness in my tummy.
Lots happened since then, hasn't it?
Well, yeah. Oh gosh. But the Brian one, I felt like I've lost my best friend, and I don't even know him.
What about when Ollie Watkins left? Because you always said you really liked
I love
Ollie.
Of course, I love Ollie. I don't know. I think it would have upset me at the time, but not to the level of the Brian and Burma one. I think it's just because I feel like Brian is, I mean, Ollie did to an extent, but he's kind of grown up with us.
Yeah.
And it's the video that got me. If it had just been a little farewell message, I probably wouldn't have sobbed. But because it was the way this video had been put together with all the memories, his interaction with fans and things, I just was like, oh, we've lost a diamond of a man who not only is brilliant on the pitch, but fantastic off it as well. And I think that just got to me.
You know, one of the great things about football is people get attached to certain personalities.
That's it.
And that is, you know, that's why you have, you know, names on shirts and young kids who get even more affected. I mean, there's loads of sons and daughters out there who have their idol, have left the club and can't believe they're moving on because they obviously are too young to understand the reasons why players' careers and have to move on sometimes. Sometimes unnecessarily as well. It's
Yeah. This is from Bob from Devon, who's a Liverpool fan. He says Fernando Torres going to Chelsea went through a combination of shock, anger, sadness, despair in equal measures and can still feel it today.
Suarez came in.
I know.
And I would say Suarez was even better for Liverpool than Torres. And they were both great. But even so, it was like... wow.
And Ronnie in Dundee. Players leaving my club... Dundee United, he says, always have been a selling club, but use the cash to keep a good side together in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. Andy Gray to Aston Villa, Ray Stewart to West Ham. There was Kevin Gallagher, Duncan Ferguson, Christian Daly, Billy Dodds. He says, you've got it easy now. I do not have it easy.
That's Dundee United, isn't it?
Yes, he also mentions Richard Gough as well.
Yeah.
A bit later he mentioned that as well. Yeah, that's a lot of big names.
I played against... Duncan Ferguson, and when he was first on when I went to Celtic, he was sort of on the start of his career when he turned up. But they've had some big ones, Dundee United.
I mean,
big players.
Let's not forget, every club, you all have your own story.
Yeah.
So you know, you mentioned Ollie Watkins, Saïd Benrahma leaving in that period. You can go further back to a whole host of. I mean, Dean Holdsworth. Don't get me started on when Dean Holdsworth left.
You've mentioned him before.
I mean, he's my favourite player ever. But it was just because of social media. You know, they could just pull on the heartstrings, and that's what they did. Right, you can keep sending in your messages. By the way, 1889 is the text number. The WhatsApp is 03717 223344. You can leave us a voice note as well. Come on. Just tell us about those players that really got you upset because they left, and we'd love to hear from you. So, it's been quite an interesting transfer window this summer so far. Premier League clubs have until September the 1st to strengthen their squads, and there have been huge deals every few days, with more still to come. Arsenal on the verge of completing the signing of Sporting striker Victor Gyökeres for £63.5 million, while his Sweden teammate Alexander Isak revealed, as we were talking earlier, that he is exploring his options and not involved in their pre-season tour. They are saying it's due to a minor thigh injury, but he's not involved as things stand. And now there's discussions, no doubt, going on with everyone involved at Newcastle and Isak's parties as well. This is amid interest from Liverpool with potentially a record British fee of £150 million, Cass.
Yeah.
It's quite extraordinary, the money that they have been spending, Liverpool, because they've already signed the German international, Florian Wirtz. That was a British record transfer, £116 million. Hugo Ekitike came in this week for £69 million, which could rise by a further £10 million as well. Astronomical, really, with what is going on, yeah.
I just want to say something. You know, like, when Real Madrid were at their big spending and were going crazy and Galacticos and buying the world's best players, and you know, no one's even mentioned that Liverpool have gone Galactico this summer window. It is gone.
Well, I did just say astronomical. That's a bit like Galactico.
Well, you know, Liverpool have gone. I knew that they would spend big. Do I ever think they would have gone this crazy?
But do they? This is going to sound stupid to say it, because obviously there's a reason why they're looking at Isak. And if you're going to get someone like an Isak, who you know is Premier League ready already, why wouldn't you? But they've just brought Ekitike in as well. Yeah. So how is this going to work?
Well, it's all going to be about balancing the books as well. And they'll be selling players, which they've sold a couple already, you know, young lads. Konza went, didn't he? And so, but yeah, there will be others that will go out the door if they're going to get obviously, Isak deal over the line. But just generally now, look at the spending that's gone on already with other clubs. Look at what Arsenal have done. Look at Man City, what they've done since January. Look at Chelsea. Man United are trying to fight back and, you know, create a team that's going to be more capable next year. So there's a lot going on in the Premier League. I mean, I know from friends in Europe who look at the English Premier League and think, Harry, they can indulge in so much spending, even with financial fair play out there, that these clubs can do it. But look at the revenues of the top six. Revenues has just soared in recent years. All of them. From
Yeah.
Tottenham Stadium to, what they've built, and then you got Arsenal and the revenue that's been created, the Chelsea club winners, the World Cup, but the revenue has been extraordinary that's been allowed to be spent in this country by the top six.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But it is mind-boggling, some of the figures that we are seeing being spent this summer. Liverpool, obviously the biggest spenders so far, and that could go up even more if they get the Isak deal done. And I do see why they're coming from with Isak, not just because we know what his output already, but if you look at Liverpool's squad, there's so much reliance on Mo Salah with the goals.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Luis Diaz obviously
contribute,
but
did.
You know that Darwin Núñez not as prolific, and perhaps is going to be one of those they're going to move on. You mentioned Diaz as well, so I get why they're coming for someone like an Isak. But when you've also got Paqueta, I just can't. I mean, it's crazy to me. It's fabulous to be a Liverpool fan, I'm sure.
The teams behind the top six, because the top six have mainly done all the spending. But if you look at all this, they all feel like they're waiting. They're waiting from Fulham to Everton to other teams that are just waiting to do business because they can't go in for the big offers. I'm sure Brentford in the next week or two will do some spending. If they lose Vizza as well, they'll do some spending. But a lot of them are waiting.
Yeah, well, you have to a little
behind
bit,
the top six. Because that's where it's all happened, up there, at the top end.
But equally, a lot of those clubs you've just mentioned are looking on thinking, we can't spend 150 million on one player.
No, Leeds and Sunderland have done, as a couple of teams have got promoted, have done business. Yeah. But generally, the middle order teams, a lot of them have done relatively very little.
It has been quite a summer already for the Premier League. In fact, data shows the Premier League clubs have spent £1.63 billion on players since the window opened at the start of June. Crikey, what I could have done with that.
Well, I would be amazed if it doesn't go over 2 billion. By the time
you're right, because there's a lot of business still to be done. You're absolutely right, from a lot of other clubs too. Quickly getting back onto the text topic of player departures that have broken your heart, and lots of you getting in touch. Tim, for example, says Mark Hughes leaving United to join Barcelona in 1986. I was devastated, felt like I'd grown up with him. Took me weeks to get over it. Love the show. Tim, thank you very much. We're also asking not only just for your WhatsApp messages or your text messages, but also your voice notes. Here's a Spurs fan, Josh.
He hasn't left yet, but the inevitable departure of Heung-min Son will break me. He stayed during the worst period. He stayed literally because he loved the club so much, and he won with Tottenham. He is Mr. Tottenham in my opinion. So yeah, when Heung-min Son leaves, I will crumble.
And do you know what? It's a fair point because he has stayed and he hasn't been at his best the last 18 months, but he's been an incredible servant for Spurs.
Without a doubt.
Great servant.
Yeah. And that's why I sort of relate with the Brian thing, because, his teammates have been and gone. Ollie Watkins, Saïd Benrahma, Ivan Toney, players that were picking up headlines, but he also has picked up headlines on the way, but nothing ever seemed to come out about him pushing for a move.
No.
It was only this summer, but we expected him to go this summer just because of how brilliant he has been over the last few years. But it doesn't make it any easier when you put out a video like that, Brian. You knew what you were doing. Right, coming up in the next hour, we will cross over to Switzerland ahead of the Euros final, and we'll also build up the PDC World Match Play Darts semi-finals too.
The Lions. Real-life fantasy rugby, bitter rivalries set aside in a quest to create the world's best team in weeks. There's nothing like it, but who on earth had the idea and how did it all begin? Incredibly, the first Lions tour was organised and funded by three men who played in England's first ever Test cricket match: opening bowler Alfred Shaw, opening batsman Arthur Shrewsbury and captain James Lillywhite. The 1888 Lions squad, then made up of 17 English, 4 Scots and 1 Welshman and a Northern Irishman, took a 46-day boat trip to New Zealand before heading to Australia. The Lions weren't alone on the boat. Also on board were 300 stoats and weasels who were brought over to eliminate New Zealand's rabbit problem. The first ever Lions captain, Robert Seddon, died of drowning midway through the tour while sculling on a river. Andrew Stoddart, who was another of the cricketers there, took over and was the star of the tour. The next one was the first to get official recognition from the RFU against the newly formed Springboks. Although the Lions won the series and beat the Boks again 5 years later, in the 12 series since in South Africa, they've only won 2. New Zealand has proved an even tougher hunting ground, just a 1 series win for the Lions in 11 attempts, which came in 1971. And then there was that nail-shredding drawn series in 2017, only the second in Lions history. Only once have the Lions clinched a series after losing the first test, 1989, when David Campese's infamous ghost pass was pounced upon by Ian Evans. Before World War II, the Lions had a dark blue strip, which on the 1930 tour forced the All Blacks to play in all white. So in 1950, the iconic red shirts, white shorts and blue and green socks combination was born. It remains the symbol of the greatest alliance of adversaries in all of sport. To borrow the phrase from Jim Telfer, the Lions is Everest.
This is GameDay Breakfast. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and with me it's the former Chelsea striker, Tony Cascarino.
Good morning.
Got a great weekend of live sport coming your way. We have got the Lions in action in the second test against Australia later on today, but also the Lionesses are through to their 3rd consecutive final as they look to avenge their World Cup final loss to Spain. Even Sarina Wiegman doesn't know how she's been so successful.
I actually don't know. I think I've worked with incredible people, staff, incredible football players, and what I'm just trying to do is create an environment where everyone can be at her best and at his best too, because I'm trying to do that with staff too and create this environment where we take action and mistakes are part of our journey.
So it is live on talkSPORT tomorrow as the Lionesses look to retain their Euros title. It is, as I mentioned, their 3rd consecutive final under Sarina Wiegman.
So here we go again. Another shot in history for the Lionesses.
So much has changed, so I'm intrigued to come back and enjoy that tournament football.
Proper England is a bit who we are and what we want to show.
The game is over and England England's title defence begins with a damaging defeat in Zurich.
We knew there was going to be pressure. It's a tough group. The Dutch look very strong, very comfortable. It's going to be a tough game.
Two left-footed shots. It's what a performance from England!
Proper English display. That's what we wanted to put on.
England are teaching Wales a footballing lesson.
Quarter-finals, back to Zurich.
Mead is there, and Jimmy! 2-2!
It was probably like 2 yards away from the goal, but a goal's a goal.
Now we go to penalties. Holmberg, it's over! England are in the semi-final!
Football, honestly, never change. Never change.
There's 2 games from glory at Euro 2025.
You can see it in the games that we've played so far and how important the substitutes have been.
Jimmy is there! Can she put it in? She does! England teenage sensation! This is extraordinary!
Yeah, I think we have that never give up attitude, you know.
To put England in the final. Kelly! Save! Kelly there again! It's in!
And it's not just about the starting 11. It really is about that squad. It's a special squad.
And England are one step away from making history again.
How dramatic it can be.
Dramatic. That is certainly the word for the Lionesses campaign in Switzerland so far. And they take on the world champions Spain tomorrow, live on talkSPORT, like I was saying. And delighted to say, joining us then to help us look ahead to it, it's the former Lioness striker Tash Dowie, who's part of our team out there. How are you, Tash?
Hi, Tash.
That was great to listen to. Gave me goosebumps.
It does. Oh, goodness me. Where do you start on this journey that the Lionesses have been on? Because when you look at it, Tash, there's been a few times where you thought, they're going out of this tournament, and yet somehow they have gone through to the final. How do you describe this tournament for them?
To be honest, I think from the first game, potentially, we were all thinking it when they got beat by France. And then every game, it seems to be, we're packing our bags, we're going home. And then they found themselves in the final. Like, we've just been laughing about it then, just saying, I cannot believe England have reached it. But I think you've got to give them credit. The football hasn't been great. Let's be honest. They haven't performed how we know they can perform. But the mentality of this squad, and I highlight the squad because it is so important. The game's changed. The finishers, they call them the finishers. And that's not disrespectful to the starting 11. They do their part, but the respect that this squad have for Serena Wiegman and the way that they play for her, I think it's quite inspiring.
Tash, I've got to ask you, because it's from Spain's perspective, who've basically cruised through the group phase. I've only been behind once in any game, and that was against Italy in the group phase, but they ended up dispatching Italy 3-1. They've cruised through, and yes, it was tricky at times against Germany, but it's been pretty seamless, in my opinion, for Spain, because they've never really looked in trouble.
Yeah, and I think that could be a bad thing, if I'm being completely honest. You look at what England have had to go through, playing the likes of France, some top opposition, Sweden, penalty shootouts, all this drama. And actually, Spain probably haven't been challenged enough yet, to actually then come up against England in a final. That's probably going to be their biggest ask. So I'm hoping that England, this is going to be their time to perform, and, they're due a good performance. And I've seen Spain. I think they're a top team. We all know how good they are, but I do think they're beatable.
Yes, I mean, we all hope that that's the case, certainly Tash as well. But like Cass was saying, they have sort of eased their way into this final. But when you look at the Lionesses, it's been slightly different, as we've already touched on. But game changers have come off the bench. We've seen that with Chloe Kelly. We've seen that with Michelle Adjemang as well. Are you expecting that those two players in particular are going to be on the bench once more? Because Serena knows, if I need to win this game, I can turn to them. They can come off the bench, and she has a strong bench then available.
Yeah, it's been working, hasn't it? And I think that's been the frustration from all of us. People have been asking, well, why doesn't she start the players that are scoring and having the impact, from the start? But I think when it works, why change it? And I think that it happened the same in 2022 when Aruso and Toon was coming off the bench and scoring those goals. And then this is the new finishers group, I guess. And like I said, that's why I respect those players so much, because I think if I was a player like a Kelly, like an Adjemang that was coming on and delivering, I'd be really knocking on her door saying, well, give give me a start. I want to start from the off. I want to have that opportunity. But these players know what their roles are. They respect that. And that's where I think Serena's created this environment where everyone knows what they have to do and they deliver. And to be honest, sadly, I see the game panning out in a very similar manner. I really do. I think it's going to be drama. I think it's going to be tension. I'm sorry to say it.
My fingernails won't stand that, Tash. What are you doing to me?
Well, look, Tash, there's one thing for me that stands out, and that is leadership qualities. And if you look at Leah Williamson, who's captain of Arsenal and of England and won the Champions League, she will play a vital role, I'm sure, because I think she's one of the standout features of the England squad.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and I think that when coming into the tournament, you lost some big leaders, your Millie Brights, your Fran Kirbys, Mary Earps, 3 probably captains and leaders within that group. But actually, I think you're spot on. Your Leah Williamsons has really stood up, a Lucy Bronze. You've got different leaders that lead in different ways. You look at a Stanway, a Walsh, but maybe lead more by example. A Russo, so young still, but her leadership, the way that she's worked at the front, her pressing, a Hemp, all of these different characters. A Greenwood, over 100 caps now. But I guess you've got more of the vocal ones, like is a Lucy Bronze, but then you've got your quieter leaders. And I think when it's mattered in really key moments, players have stood up at different times, and I think that's been really impressive. And then you talk about leaders, the ones that have come off the bench as well. And Ajiman, 19 years of age, but the way that she's led and come on and had that presence and authority in her first major tournament, it's been brilliant to watch.
Yeah, and just her ability to be in the right place at the right time, to be 19, just sort of your career's just starting, and yet she just has that striker's sort of poacher's instinct. It's been fabulous to see. Just quickly, I mean, Serena isn't one to mix and match when it comes to her squad. She kind of sticks with a similar 11, but the defence has been one that she has worked on during this tournament. We know that what Spain are capable of. They've got the top scorer in their team so far in this tournament too. Who do you think is the best backline to cope with Spain's attack?
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I think Esther's been magnificent, top goal scorer, 4 goals, and then Pina, phenomenal. Caldente, we've seen her at Arsenal this season. I mean, it's really quite scary to think what they're coming up against. But I think she'll stick with the same back four that started the last game with Italy. I think you'll have your Lucy Bronze, Leah Williamson and Greenwood. The only one that I'm umming and ahhing against, do you stick a Morgan in a final when, that was probably her first start in a major tournament in the semi-final, or do you go back to a Carter with everything that's been going on with her as well, with the racist abuse? It's tough. It's a tough call with regards to who she goes there. But to be honest, I think all 4 of them, I actually think England's style of play is better suited to come up against the Spanish team rather than a Sweden or a France who are a counter-attacking team. I think England struggle with teams that like to counter. I actually think that they're better suited to come up against this Spanish team, and they're going to have to suffer, absolutely. They're going to have less possession, but I really do think that England can grind out a result.
Tash, just briefly, do we know how close Laura James is to playing? Obviously,
so we spoke to Serena Wiegman. She said she's touch and go. Yeah, she's touch and go. I think that they're going to give her a couple of extra days, but if I'm being honest, I don't think she's going to be starting tomorrow.
Right.
Okay. Bit of a blow then, because she's done all right considering the injury issues she has had coming into this tournament. It's going to be fascinating, no doubt. Tash, bring us the luck, will you?
I definitely will. It's worked so far.
Yeah,
One
it
more.
certainly has. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's Tash Dowry then, who is part of our team out in Switzerland, and she'll be part of our team for the live final tomorrow on talkSPORT.
We talk about players, and you mentioned a few Spanish. Bon Mati is a problem.
Oh, well, she obviously scored the winner in that Germany game. And if you remember, I don't know if you remember, we spoke about her before the tournament because she was in hospital with viral meningitis.
Right, yeah. I remember you saying that.
Had a slow start to the tournament in the sense of she started on the bench a few games and now is starting games. But, I mean, ridiculous. There's just a plethora of incredible players, and that's hence why they're world champions and looking to win the Euros for the very first time as well. It's going to be intriguing. By the way, there was a brilliant video, I don't know if you saw it, that I was circulating on social media. I think it was, forgive me, I don't know if it was the BBC. One of the team, you know how everyone now films commentary? So they're filming the commentary, and I think it is that the England-Italy game, if memory serves me right. It must be, because it was this week. Anyway, in the background, there's Adrian Durham. There's Izzy Minter, who is our producer out there as well. And it's brilliant just watching their faces. Because, I mean, Adrian's just like aghast, like can't believe the turnaround of what's happening in that game. And Izzy's just like smiling. And it's just brilliant. I was just watching those two. I was like, the reactions are just fabulous. Brilliant. It sums up what a time it's been.
Have been the most chaotic team, haven't they, in the tournament? By a long way. Drama.
Which in a weird way makes you think, surely it's destiny. They've got to win it now. But anyway, that's coming for you tomorrow. On the way next, Cass and I pick out a couple of stories we want to highlight from the back pages. Good morning, this is Game Day Breakfast. We're live on your radio, on YouTube and your smart TV as well, so you can always tune in to see how we're looking this morning. If we're looking a bit, I don't know, frazzled because of an early start, but I think we're all right. We're not too bad this
you
morning.
had a bit of a coughing fit, didn't you? First section.
Could not shake it. Didn't know what. It's so annoying. Nothing worse when your job depends on you talking. You're like, sorry, I go. Anyhow, thank you for filling. You did brilliantly. It is Tony Cascarino, a man who is yet to serve his 2-game international ban. So Ireland, don't call him up because he can't play for 2 games.
Can't play.
I'm Natalie Sawyer. We're with you until 10 this morning, and we'll get to our paper stories in just a moment, but what we want to talk about very briefly is the players that have broken your heart. This following Brian Mbeumo's farewell video, which led to me sobbing. Loads of you have been getting in touch and really do appreciate it. Paul, for example, Liam Brady when he left Arsenal.
Yes, big one.
Yes, so this is the thing. Brett actually echoes that as well. Liam Brady to Juventus. I was 9 years old. He was my idol. I just didn't understand. I still don't, to be fair. It ruined my world at the time. Why would a genius leave us? Still love him though.
See, I'm not an Arsenal supporter, but I went to the Arsenal with a friend who was to watch Liam Brady. I remember going there, and then about 3 years later, I'm rooming with him.
That's weird.
With the Republic of Ireland.
Weird.
In Switzerland.
That quick? 3 years?
In Switzerland, yeah. It was about 3 or 4 years. Yeah, 3 or 4 years.
That's mad.
I remember watching him and then thinking...
Yeah, but you're watching him and
me and him were playing cards. You were playing Kaluki in the room, and I remember thinking, It's Liam Brady, the one I used to watch at Arsenal. I went to Arsenal to watch Liam.
That's crazy. But I love those kind of stories, how the world works out. This one as well is...
Oh, what is this?
I mean, I don't know what's shaking on this table, but something's shaking. This one is also, it says, when Glenn Hoddle abandoned Swindon in 1993, I felt angry and cynical at the inevitability of it all. That's from Mick. There is that side of it as well, the anger.
Yes, yeah.
There is always an anger as well.
How dare he?
I know. I didn't have that so much with Brian, although there was a tinge of, but look what you did and look what you love. And anyway, I get it. Amanda is a Chelsea fan. She's actually rung the show. So good morning, Amanda.
Amanda?
Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Natalie.
Thank you so much for joining us, Amanda.
So I'm a Chelsea supporter.
Yeah.
Have been for an awful long time. And back in the 70s, Tony would remember this player, Steve Wicks.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Very tall, 6'2" defender.
Oh.
And he was leaving to go, I think it was to QPR.
Yes, he
anyway,
did.
I was heartbroken. So I wrote him a letter.
Oh, Amanda.
And sent it to Chelsea.
Yes.
Didn't think anything more of it. And about a week later, I was up in my bedroom, and my father, the phone rang, and my father shouted up the stairs, Amanda, it's Steve Wicks on the phone.
No way.
Yeah. I couldn't get down the stairs. My legs were jelly.
Oh, dear. And Amanda, he was a very handsome-looking man, wasn't he, Steve Wicks?
Very handsome-looking man. I think he married the chairman's daughter, if I remember rightly.
Oh, good choice.
Yeah.
Very
Anyway,
good. So what was the conversation like?
I couldn't talk to him. I was so tongue-tied.
Oh.
I was so starstruck. I couldn't tell you what he said to me. But what a lovely thing to do.
That is nice. That's very special, actually.
Can you imagine today's superstars doing that?
No, not at all.
No,
Amanda, what a great story.
That's a really lovely story, Amanda. Thank you for sharing it.
Okay, thanks. Lovely show.
Great to have you with us, Amanda. Thank you. That's so special. Yeah. Do you know, I know I keep harping back to my club, but I can only relate to mine. The only thing that I know that they do is, and I'm sure a lot of clubs do this, when there's a birthday or an occasion, they'll get a legend or the chairman will ring up. But to have a player that is pretty special.
So you expecting Brian to knock on your door, Brian and Burma?
I mean, and all I'm going to say is we shared a goodbye on Instagram. There was a message sent, and he replied with a thank you. So that was good enough
Wicks,
for me.
Yeah, played against Steve Wicks a couple of times. I was at the start of my career, was at the end of his, but he started at Chelsea, ended up playing for QPR. Good player.
Only Amanda could remember what was said. But hey ho. Right, let's get to the papers, shall we? Quickly, we haven't got much time. Do you want to start?
Yes, I'll quickly go because I'm not, as you know, a cricket enthusiast, but there's a really interesting article in the Telegraph today by Nick Holt, and it's about little boy Root, and he surpassed Ricky Ponting, didn't he, yesterday in the all-time list? And
incredible innings.
The name Little Boy came from Ponting. That's what he called Root when he first started, when he was on the road to being the player he is today, and how he's matured. And it's incredible, Nat, when you look at players' career, because it's no hairs and graces with Joe Root. You can see he's that type of person, which is lovely. And of course he's having an amazing success. But I just take it back before the summer, because Root, in private, Root was telling close confidence before the Lord's Test that he was feeling out of nick this summer. Since then, he's scored 140, 40 and 150. And when you sort of think that legendary status that he's at, and there is the real person there talking about, I'm not quite on my game, and I'm not quite, I don't feel quite right, and then he scored unbelievable. And Tendulkar's the next one on the line. Can he surpass?
Yeah,
Joe Root
was it a couple of thousand off him, something like that.
But he's still 34, which in cricket terms, he's still got a lot of cricket in him to play to surpass Tendulkar. But fair play, because this baseball that England are playing certainly suits Joe Root. He's getting runs for fun, and hopefully for him it'll continue. But a very unassuming guy that's done brilliantly well at cricket with an amazing confidence to be able to hit so many runs.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
It is. And let's not forget, he was England captain for a period as well.
Yeah, and actually stepped down, didn't he?
Stepped down.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they step down, it leads to their retirement. You know, they don't get involved in the international scene as much, but it feels as though, and we do talk about this sometimes, and I'm not saying this is the case with Joe Root, but sometimes the burden of being a captain, and a cricket captain, there is a lot of burden with that because you are part of selection. You are part of everything that goes on the field as well. Less so in football, as we know, they're more just a figurehead than anything.
Yeah.
That maybe relinquishing that captaincy role has just helped him. Not that he was really suffering too much when he was captain too, but still.
Well, not everybody wants to be a captain, but fair play to him. He surpassed, and Ricky Ponting was very complimentary about Joe Root in the article. So
good.
Great.
That's nice to hear. I'm going to quickly refer you to a couple of pieces in the Sun and the Daily Mirror today, and it's all to do with VAR. Yes, obviously we're going to see it back in the Premier League next season. There's slightly different stories. The one in the Sun this morning is something we actually spoke about, with the idea of what might be brought into football this, not necessarily this coming season, but ideas that they were suggesting. One of which was they were saying that maybe VAR should be looking into second yellows, in the sense of should some yellows not be given, because obviously we know second yellow means a red as well. Mark Bullingham, who is the FA chief, is against that. He feels there's too much of VAR checks in games, there's too many interruptions, and therefore something like yellow cards being looked at, and corner kicks. Remember, wrong corner kicks being given, for example. That was another idea that IFAB, the International Football Board, if you like, wanted to bring in. He's not in favour of those. Of all the things I think they should be looking at,
yellows.
I actually think second yellows is a good thing.
Yeah, well,
how many ridiculous red cards do we see on a yellow card that we all go, oh, come on, that's not a yellow.
Yeah, and look, it's such a dramatic thing to happen in a game, is to go to 10 men.
Yeah, of course.
If you get a corner wrong, that's not nowhere near as dramatic as an incident. No. Of course, it can be a mistake, but I think there is a line in the sand where you have to cut off how many regulations are in the game and go, no, we don't need to keep looking at these sort of things. But second yellow card is a much more severe penalty, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It can change a match because of that, of that red card. So, I think, as much as I understand where Mark Bullingham is coming from, I do think, come on, second yellows definitely need to be looked at. And very quickly in the Mirror, their article, which is Premier League refs to give crowd VAR results, something that we have seen a lot in tournaments, including the Women's World Cup, where it was trialled, also the FA Cup, the League Cup, and the playoff finals as well, is where we hear referees giving the outcome in a stadium. So when a VAR review has taken place, we often hear the referee make the announcement with, after a review, so-and-so has been sent off, or this goal has been disallowed. We will be hearing that. That will be from next season. So that has been confirmed. We're not still going to have that two-way discussion between a referee and VAR, which I really want to hear, because I think that will help a lot of us to understand the decisions that are made, even if we don't agree with them. But this seems to be the right step in the right direction in keeping the fans in the stadium up to date with everything that takes place.
Okay.
So there are just a couple of VAR things that I wanted to bring to your attention.
Good.
Okay, on the way next, the PDC World Match Play Darts in Blackpool is down to the semi-final stage. We'll look at it next. Good morning, this is GameDay Breakfast. It's the former Chelsea striker, Tony Cascarino, who is alongside me, Natalie Sawyer, as we take you through until we bring you live coverage of the second test between Australia and the British and Irish Lions. This morning, we're asking for you to get involved in the conversation of the players that have left you heartbroken or maybe even angry because of their departure. I was sobbing earlier this week with the farewell video that Brian Mbermo put out on social media as he bid his farewell to Brentford after 6 years following his move now to Manchester United. So many of you have been getting in touch. Let's hear from Charlie, who's actually left us a voice note all the way from Cyprus.
When Marcus Stewart left Huddersfield Town, he was our top scorer, he was our main idol, he was a legend, and he went to our rivals Ipswich Town, and sadly for us got promoted with Ipswich into the Premier League, and Huddersfield, I think if I remember rightly, were in the top six all season and then lost on the last day to Fulham 3-0 and failed even to get in the playoffs. It was tearful. Thanks.
Yeah. Charlie, I understand that completely. Eddie Howe, by the way, has been talking this morning on the situation of Alexander Isak. He's out with the Newcastle squad in Singapore, although Isak has remained in England, it seems. And as a summary of what he has said, he said, of course, there are things going on behind the scenes. Conversations that happen between Alex and myself and Alex and the club will stay private. What happens, he says, has to be best for the club. There are no contract talks taking place. That will be for a later date, potentially, he said. I certainly hope he stays. It's football. Who knows what the future may bring, he says. So, yes, it's all getting a little bit of an unknown period for Newcastle and Alexander Isak. But lots of you have been getting in touch with the players that have made you sob when they have left. Josh in rugby, when Dion Dublin left Coventry for Villa.
Yes. Dion done brilliant for Villa. I'm sorry, I could add in he done brilliant for Coventry as well. But he did. He was fantastic for Villa when he turned up and really, really played well. Yeah.
This one says, I cried lots when Ray Wilkins left Chelsea for Manchester United. I was about 10. That's from Daytona. And Pompey Adams been a bit sneaky. He said, I can remember there was a tear in my eye the day Tony left Crocken Hill. Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
You and the other 5 people that were there.
Yeah, well, the rest got tracksuits, so they were happy. You can keep your messages coming into us. 81089 is the text number. You can also WhatsApp us on 03717 223344. We can also leave us a voice note. Let's turn our attention to the darts, shall we? And world champion Luke Littler is into his first World Match Play semi-final after surviving a late scare in Blackpool. Now, he looked pretty comfortable for much of his quarter-final, leading 12-8 and then 14-9 before Andrew Gilding pegged him back to just a single leg 15-14, and it was Littler that held his nerve to edge a 16-14 win then at the Winter Gardens. Next up, he's got a semi-final showdown with Josh Rock, who impressed again last night, beating Gerwyn Price 16-11 in a high quality even contest. So to talk us through what happened, what we can expect next, we're joined by talkSPORT's Mark Wilson. How are you, Mark? Good morning.
Hi. Good morning, guys. How are we doing? Okay.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, very, very good. I tell you what, the crowds at the Winter Gardens yesterday were treated to some fantastic darts, weren't they?
Yeah, what a night of darts it was. I mean, the match play never lets us down, but it was particularly good last night. As you said, Luke Littler looked to be cruising. 14-9 he was up at one point, and Andrew Gilding, the most, you just look at him and he just, I don't know, he's so non-assuming, isn't he? So calm, and he just turns up, plays his game, don't realise what's going on around him, and he very, very nearly pulled off a massive upset last night.
I mean, you're talking about that one, but the one that's got me is Josh Rock beating Gerwyn Price, because Josh Rock is not relatively as well known as Luke Littler, obviously, but he's an emerging player from Northern Ireland that has took, I think, darts by storm, and beating Gerwyn Price was a massive win for him.
Yeah, look, he burst onto the scene a few years ago, Josh, and everyone expected him to go on and do pretty much what Luke Littler's done. It hasn't quite happened for him, but he won the World Cup last month. He's been in great form. He's been a winner on the tour, and he's won on the European tour in the past. And he's shown all through the week, really. He came to Blackpool, he'd never won here before, and he's put in 3 brilliant performances, averaged over 103 and beating Gezi last night, and played really, really well. And, that's a great matchup there. He meets Littler in the semi-finals. It's going to be another wow of a game, I think.
Mark, the averages are really, I mean, I think Gerwyn was over 100 as well, wasn't he? So, you're getting darts players now regularly getting over 100. If you're going to win things, you've got to be that level.
Yeah, look, it's the norm now, isn't it? It's expected. It's almost a disappointment when they don't go over 100. But, I mean, Gezi's been the form player in the world for last month. It was a little bit of an upset. I think everyone thought that Josh had a chance, and he played really, really well last night and didn't really give Gezi a sniff. It was 8-all at one point, and then he just burst away and played really well. So fully deserves his place in his semi-final, and they're both in the first semi-final. So for one of them, they're going to make it all the way through to the final tonight.
Mark, can I ask you a question? Because I've never really checked, but I'd heard it mentioned before that over the years the treble has slightly got bigger. Is that true? Is that true, or is that a myth?
Look, I don't know the ins and outs of the measurements of the board, but I think the wires might have got a bit thinner. That might be where it's changed a little bit. But look, it's the board's still the same size. No, people say it. I don't. I think you look at the old school TV pictures, the wires look a little bit thicker. The trebles do look a little bit smaller, but the board's still the same size. So that's all.
Good. It's like having a crossbar in football, a little bit smaller, but it doesn't really stop. If it goes in, it goes in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
well, these guys are that good now. They practice that much. I think you can make them even smaller. They'd still hit them.
Don't be thinking you can take up darts now just because you think it's got bigger, the trebles. Don't be silly.
No, I wasn't, because the standard is so incredible, and they practice way more, as Mark knows, than they did years gone by. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're playing more darts than ever. These guys are playing every week. They're practicing every day. And if you want to be a darts player today, it's a serious job. You've got to take it seriously. You've got to be full-time. And these guys are putting the work in, and they're getting the rewards for it.
So let's talk in particular about the semi-finals then that are coming up today. First off, it's James Wade against Johnny Clayton. Then we've got Luke Littler, Josh Rock. So let's talk about Wade Clayton then. How do you see this one shaping up?
This is a tough one, isn't it? James Wade has been in 6 finals at Blackpool. He's just such a phenomenon when it comes. I mean, last year he nearly didn't qualify for the tournament. He made the semi-finals. He's made the semi-finals again. He's been outstanding. I think it was his 62nd game at Blackpool in round 1. He put on his best ever average, 104, and he's not really let his standards slip from there. So he's going to be a handful. But Johnny Clayton, I think he's a man on a mission. He played here 2 years ago. He got to the final. His father was really ill at the time, and he passed away subsequently. So I think Johnny's got a little bit of history here. I think he wants to prove a point to himself and his family and go on and win it. So it's going to be another, big tussle, that one. It's tough to call. I think Johnny just could edge it, but, you wouldn't be surprised if either of them won.
Yeah, well, James Wade's come on leaps and bounds. He's had his troubles, hasn't he, along the way, Mark? And he spoke about them, and he seems to have come back a far stronger darts player than he was, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, look, I mean, like I said last year, 2 weeks before the tournament at Blackpool, he wasn't even in it. He had to qualify late, and he got to the semi-finals. He's won a tour title this year. He's playing probably the best starts of his life at the minute. And you mentioned he has had his issues with mental health, and he's probably in a good position now with that. And I think that's showing on the hockey. He's playing some of his best starts of his life. He's climbing back up the rankings, and he's going to be a handful, that's for sure.
Good.
And then just cast your eye then on Littler Rock. They're friends, aren't they? They kind of know each other pretty well.
Look, they've never met in the PDC, so there's there's a little bit of history to be made tonight. But they're both outstanding young players. Both young, like you mentioned right at the start, a young talent in Josh Rutt that broke in onto the scene and maybe didn't quite kick on as quickly as everyone thought he would. But he's playing some good stuff now. And Littler, he averaged 108 in round one. Produced two really solid performances thereafter. He's playing well. It's such a great game. Two of the best players in the world are going head-to-head on talkSPORT 2 tonight, 8 o'clock. I won't want to call it either way.
Well, enjoy it, Mark. Thank you
for
being with us today. That is Mark Wilson, who will be part of our team then in Blackpool. We're bringing you live commentary of the World Match Play Darts then with in Danta, Paul Nicholson and Chris Mason alongside Mark. The session starts at 7 p.m. on talkSPORT 2. We'll also have regular updates on talkSPORT as well. Just very quickly on the subject of players that have broken your heart. Oh, so many of you getting in touch. It might not be for the right reasons that they broke your heart. You might have been angry, hence why you're angry.
Yeah, of course.
That has broken you. Darren, and I hear you. There's been only one player who made me angry. Sol Campbell.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the reason why was he lied, saying he would never go to Arsenal. Plenty of players switched between both clubs and still respected, but I lost all respect for him in the way it all came about.
That one's a real... that needs a big plaster on that wound for our Tottenham fans. They'll never forgive Sol for making that move.
I'd rather stupidly have locked the iPad. Don't know the code, so I can't read any more messages, but we'll come to that. It's not that. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4 because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh,
1, 2, 3.
It's worked. This one as well I wanted to get to. Steve in Leeds. I hear you, Steve, and I get it. He says, when my team's hottest prospect left to leave to go to your team, Brentford, Ollie Watkins from Exeter. Massive loss for us Grecians. Yeah. I mean, we pursued him for a couple of seasons, so it felt as though that was inevitable in a way, Steve. But yeah, I get it. I get why you'd have felt like that because, he was doing brilliant things for...
I'm trying to think of one who I got a little bit angry about leaving. I can't really think of one with Liverpool now. You think one at Brentford? One that you got a little bit annoyed about? More than upset? Just got a little bit annoyed.
Yeah. I hate to say it because he's a lovely lad. But when James Tarkowski left Brentford... that didn't go down particularly well because he had the thing, I didn't want to play, didn't think he was in the right place to play. And I kind of get it, but that didn't go down well with Brentford fans because, at the time, we didn't have a big squad. I think we might have been in, would it be Championship? Would it be? I can't remember now. And it just felt a bit like, oh, come on, just keep playing for us. And you still will get the move, but we needed him in the team and he had sort of asked to not be a part of the team. Well, and I know a lot of players do that, but that kind of just left a lot of... sour taste.
Trent sort of had that, didn't he, at the end of the season with Liverpool fans, where there was a number of them. Yeah. I mean, I defended Trent, so, but there was an element of fans a little bit annoyed that he'd parted ways with Liverpool.
Yeah. And
which is expected. Fans get so attached with their clubs.
I know, and that's all it is because we're so precious about our clubs and so partisan about them that you can't think, well, there's anywhere better. There is no grass greener, even though for many teams, actually, and many players there are. But you have that thought of, well, why would you want to leave? Yeah, we're fans through and through. We stick around, so you stick around too.
I was thinking of Newcastle United and Malcolm McDonald going back in the 70s when he left to go to Arsenal. That was a big one for Newcastle fans to lose him at that particular time. That never worked out. He never performed even close to what he did at Newcastle.
Yeah, keep them coming into us. Really interesting to hear your stories of the players that either broke your heart, made you angry because of their departure from your team. 81089 is the text number. The WhatsApp is 03717223344, where you can also leave us a voice note. You can even call us on there. Amanda did it earlier on, telling us the story of Steve Wicks, who she wrote a letter to when he left Chelsea, and he even rang her up Although not that she can remember what he said, unfortunately, but still, how special was that? Coming up, we're going to take a look at some of the top trending stories on talksport.com and chat more Newcastle and the transfer window struggles so far. Morning, this is Game Day Breakfast. We're live on your radio, YouTube and smart TV. It's the former Marseille and Nancy striker Tony Cascarino who is with me, Natalie Sawyer. Here are some of your headlines today. Manchester City is set to re-sign England's under-21 goalkeeper James Trafford for £27 million 2 years after he left to join Burnley. Wrexham have reportedly approached former Manchester United midfielder Christian Eriksen, who is available on a free transfer to join them in the Championship. And Joe Root is up to second on the all-time test run scorers list as England gain control over India after day 3 of the 4th test at Old Trafford. For more on the latest trending stories, talksport.com Sean O'Brien has you covered.
Plenty happening on talksport.com, but there is only one place to start, and that is with the Alexander Isak saga. We've taken a look at how Liverpool could line up after this incredible spending spree and how they can avoid any PSR issues even if they do break the British transfer record again. In cricket, Joe Root became the second highest run scorer in Test match history on Friday, but find out which all-time record he did break at Old Trafford. And then in golf, we spoke exclusively to Patrick Reed about why he should be picked for this year's Ryder Cup. And there's bad news for John Daly, who may need to find a new restaurant next time he rocks up at the Masters in Augusta. That's all over on talksport.com.
Sean, thank you very much. Let's go into more detail then on some of the stories that are trending on talksport.com with writer and maybe right now a little dismayed Newcastle fan Jack Cunningham. Jack, good morning. How are you?
Hi, Jack. How are you doing?
Very, very well. Better than you probably this morning.
Yeah, it's been a pretty bad week. I mean, in terms of the Isak stuff, I was looking about a week and a half ago. I was looking at Paqueta and Isak up front, and now I've got neither.
Well, it's not over yet. It's not over yet with Isak. You know, you never know. We'll bring Eddie Howe's press conference that's been holding it to our listeners in just a moment. But he is talking about there are conversations clearly taking place, although they're not talking about a contract extension or anything like that just yet. He's still hopeful that you can hold on to Isak. But by the sound of it, Jack, you seem resigned to the fact that he's going to be leaving.
Yeah, so I think with you looking with the Isak thing, I think initially I thought he wouldn't leave at all, especially once Newcastle got Champions League football, because on the pitch, I don't know what more Newcastle could have done here to keep Isak. Since he's been at the club, been in Champions League 2 of 3 seasons and won a trophy. Surely that are all positive signs to indicate that Newcastle are moving in the right direction and can be that club who are going to win the big honours, etc., etc. However, off the pitch, he's been made promises that have not been delivered. So if we go back to last season, Paul Mitchell canned contract talks because he had 3.5 years left on his deal, so he decided that Isak wasn't worth giving a new contract, despite the fact Amanda Staveley had promised Isak that he was going to get a new deal. So straight away, that's an issue there. I mean, if you look at Isak, in terms of the top earners at Newcastle, he's in the top 4, but he's not actually the top earner. Bruno Guimaraes is the top earner. So, and we're talking about probably one of the best strikers in the world here. So surely he should be the top earner at the club. So I could understand there why he's annoyed. I think, again, as soon as the season ended and Newcastle got Champions League football, that would have been the first thing I would have done. I would have just sat Isak down, got him a new deal, and then wouldn't have had any of this summer. You know, even if it's got a release clause in it for certain clubs or whatever, but just get him a new contract, put him on the wage that he deserves, and then we avoid any of this. So I think Isak feels a little bit maybe betrayed by the club in some ways, especially in the sense of that contract situation. As I said, though, on the pitch, I don't really know what more Newcastle could have done, but clearly off the pitch, there are some issues. I think if you look at the timing of it, some people would say it's a bit weird. I personally think he's just waited to see what Newcastle do in the transfer market. There's only been one signing. So I think he's kind of looking at going, realistically, are they going to be in a position next season to challenge at the top where he thinks he should be? And rightfully so. He's 25. You know, he's clearly, as I said, one of the best strikers in the world. And maybe he's thinking that, unfortunately, because of the way it's gone away from the field, that he needs to move on. I'm disappointed in the way it's gone down in the sense of that this injury. Obviously, look, the club are going to stick with that line. I feel like we all know that realistically what's happened is he's probably told them that he doesn't want to travel on pre-season tour because, look, this pre-season tour is a commercial thing as well. There's going to be loads of PR stuff. Like, your best player has to go even if it's a little niggly thigh injury, in my opinion. So I think it's more case now of, unfortunately, seeing how much money we can get for him. You know, will be a British transfer record, and then investing the money wisely. But equally, I'm not sure many people have confidence Newcastle are going to do that.
Jack, just hold fire because, as I mentioned, Eddie Howe has been chatting in Singapore during this pre-season tour of the Far East. This is what he's had to say on the Isak situation.
As far as I'm aware, I don't think there's any contract talks taking place at the moment. I think that will be for a later date, potentially. I think for now, with the situation as it is and the state of the window in the sense that it's hurtling towards the end of the window very quickly from our perspective, there's still so much that could happen. Those contract talks potentially may take place at a later date. I certainly hope he stays, and I said I was confident that he'll stay. I don't see anything that's going to change that opinion of mine at the moment, but it's football and who knows what the future may bring.
I mean, it's a very difficult situation that Eddie Howe finds himself in now, Jack, because obviously he's got to say, and I'm hopeful he stays, and that, you know, there are conversations taking place, but no contract talks as of yet. There's nothing more he can say, really, than try and be positive about this situation. But Liverpool, one of the big clubs, rumoured to be looking at him, but also Saudi Arabia. There's talk of a big money deal for him there, earning around, what, 600, something like that, £1,000 a week, so some are suggesting. I mean, I assume you'd rather he go to Saudi Arabia than strengthen Liverpool.
I've got to be honest, yes. He's going to go anywhere, I'd rather he go to Saudi Arabia. Obviously, PIF own Al Hilal, they own Newcastle. Yasser Al-Rumayyan, obviously the chairman of Newcastle and the chairman of PIF, has basically already indicated that Isak's his favourite player. So no matter what, he still wants Isak to be part of the PIF brand, I suppose. And if that means him going to Saudi Arabia and earning, I think it's £600,000 a week after tax, plus bonuses. So, you know, that is life-changing money for Isak. I mean, it'd be equally, yeah, obviously I'd rather he goes there as a Newcastle fan. As a football fan, it'd be very sad to see one of the world's best players, you know, go to Saudi Arabia for, even if it's just a couple of years, it's a waste of his talent. You know, he's so good. He's got everything you want in a striker. Also, even the way he's got the style as well. I don't know what it is about him. All of his goals look nice. I don't know what that is, but it just seems to be the case. And obviously, I don't want to go to Liverpool. I think, look, if he goes to Liverpool, you can almost forget about Newcastle challenging Liverpool for a long, long time. I think you can forget about most teams challenging Liverpool for a long, long time because their transfer window then would be one of the best we've probably ever seen in the sense of the players they've signed and the fact that they're still not done yet. So if he does go to Liverpool, we may as well wrap up the Premier League. But equally, you do want him to stay in a top league. Ultimately, I'd love him to stay at Newcastle. I just don't see it at this moment in time because I think that you've got an unhappy player now and you couldn't reintegrate him, but would that disrupt the rest of the team? it's a weird one because he's so crucial. People have compared it to Coutinho before, when Liverpool saw Coutinho and then rebuilt their team. I think it's a little bit different because when Liverpool saw Coutinho, they already had Salah, Mane and Firmino in the team. So Klopp essentially just rejigged the formation, went to that 4-3-3 that became so good. Yes, they signed Van Dijk and Alisson, but they weren't losing such a crucial player like Isak. You know, if Isak goes, Newcastle have a Sula as the only striker.
Wonder who they would turn to next to fill that Isak spot, which will not be easy.
No, it won't be. Lucas Paqueta, the betting scandal that has gone on. There has been a verdict, though, hasn't there, Jack?
Yeah, we haven't got the official verdict yet, but talkSPORT understands that he has been cleared. So after a 2-year investigation, Lucas Paqueta is going to be able to play football again, which is obviously brilliant for him. I mean, you saw at the end of last season, I mean, I think he started crying on the pitch at one point because it was all going on still. And, you know, the way it dragged on was not fair on him, wasn't fair on West Ham. And in the end, he has been cleared. By the looks of it, waiting for the official verdict from the FA. But yeah, talkSPORT understands it's done. I think West Ham, I wouldn't be surprised if they take it a little bit further, because if you think about last summer, Manchester City were willing to bid £90 million for Lucas Paqueta, and it looked like he was potentially going to go there for a huge sum of money. West Ham missed out on that money and have been struggling ever since. So, you know, now the fact that it's gone on so long and it has been cleared, you know, it could get quite messy here for the FA potentially. I think West Ham are within their rights to try and take this further if they want to.
Okay, Jack, for now, thank you. Great to have you on the show.
No, it's always a pleasure. Have a lovely morning.
Great to have you with us. Yeah, that Paqueta thing, good to be resolved if that is the situation. Do you think they'd have a case, though, West Ham?
No, I don't think they really think what West Ham could really do. They could be upset and be angered by things, but Lucas Paqueta, I mean, look, spot fixing is deliberate, isn't it? That they have to prove that, and they haven't proved it. So.
Yeah, but it was a case that had to go through the procedure.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's
it's a long time,
for West Ham.
2 years.
Well, it is a long time.
I mean, I understand that the inquiry, or you know, just looking at how much detail it would have been involved, but 2 years, that's a long time to come to a verdict.
Yeah, it is, and I do understand how they might be saying, well, we've lost out on a potential big move transfer wise, but unfortunately that is the procedure that had to take place. Okay, in the next hour we're going to turn our attentions to the second test as the British and Irish Lions look to seal a series win against Australia.
The Lions. Real-life fantasy rugby. Bitter rivalries set aside in a quest to create the world's best team in weeks. There's nothing like it, but who on earth had the idea and how did it all begin? Incredibly, the first Lions tour was organised and funded by three men who played in England's first ever Test cricket match: opening bowler Alfred Shaw, opening batsman Arthur Shrewsbury and captain James Lillywhite. The 1888 Lions squad, then made up of 17 English, 4 Scots and 1 Welshman and a Northern Irishman, took a 46-day boat trip to New Zealand before heading to Australia. The Lions weren't alone on the boat. Also on board were 300 stoats and weasels, who were brought over to eliminate New Zealand's rabbit problem. The first ever Lions captain, Robert Seddon, died of drowning midway through the tour while sculling on a river. Andrew Stoddart, who was another of the cricketers there, took over and was the star of the tour. The next one was the first to get official recognition from the RFU against the newly formed Springboks. Although the Lions won the series and beat the Boks again 5 years later, in the 12 series since in South Africa, they've only won 2. New Zealand has proved an even tougher hunting ground, just a 1 series win for the Lions in 11 attempts, which came in 1971. And then there was that nail-shredding drawn series in 2017, only the second in Lions history. Only once have the Lions clinched a series after losing the first test, 1989, when David Campese's infamous ghost pass was pounced upon by Ian Evans. Before World War II, the Lions had a dark blue strip, which on the 1930 tour forced the All Blacks to play in all white. So in 1950, the iconic red shirts, white shorts and blue and green socks combination was born. It remains the symbol of the greatest alliance of adversaries in all of sport. To borrow the phrase from Jim Telfer, the Lions is Everest.
Good morning. Thank you very much for tuning in to Game Day Breakfast this Saturday morning. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and with me it is, of course, the former Crockenhill striker, Tony Cascarino.
I never had a name when I was at Crockenhill. They didn't, the supporters.
What do you mean?
Oh, one of them.
That strange
like
you get there.
No, you get a little song. Even in non-league football, you get songs about players. I remember going to watch Bromley, and they'd sing about certain 1 or 2 players. Crockenhill, no chance.
Were there any songs sung by any club for you?
No, I had some good ones at me pro level.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, pro level, yeah.
Okay.
Well, Villa. We had Chelsea. We had another hero. We got Tony Cascarino.
Of course you did.
And then at Villa, it was what did they sing? We got Tony Cascarino in the air. That was quite funny. That one. That was a funny one. And Millwall was just, we've got one Cascarino.
Yeah,
but they tended to do that with quite a number of players at Millwall.
But I said to you many years ago when I was growing up.
It's quite funny, the chance.
Yeah, no. When I was growing up, my dad's cousin is a Millwall fan. And all I ever remember, I can picture it right now. You know, you have just one little moment in your head. In the garden where he was living, and it's sort of like celebrating a goal, and it was always Cascarino.
Not Sheringham.
No, always Cascarino. Always. And it's just funny, full circle. Now I'm working with you. I was like, oh, you know, how funny.
Times change.
Oh, yes, it does. So, chants are funny because not all players get one. So it's pretty special to get a song by the fans, I'd say. Very good. The fans, I'm sure, will be in full voice in Melbourne today as the British and Irish Lions look to seal a series win against the Wallabies. It'll be live on talkSPORT.
Pride of Lions. From misty pubs and muddy boots, they flew with banter, stakes and suits.
Here we go, Test Match Series, up and running. The Lions kick off.
The Lions, bold, a touring band, to point red streaks on Aussie land.
Gliding to the right-hand side.
1 minute scrums, the next to sing. A pride that jokes but fears nothing.
We are taking them boys to the Hurt Arena this weekend.
The Wallabies are putting up. Jorgensen will take it out to the air, and Jorgensen scores in the right corner.
To win this series, you had to win 2 games, and that's what we're going to go and do next week.
Scottish Grant and Leinster Soul, a Cockney jab and Valley's roll. 4 nations, one very wild crew, with dreams stretched deep in red, gold, white, green and dark blue.
The British and Irish Lions win 2 games to 1 with a remarkable performance in Sydney.
Came as men from different shores to go into test week. Let's hear the Red Sea roll.
Set up nicely then for this second test. It's time to bring you an update on the rugby in partnership with Tenor Men.
Qatar Airways Lions Tour Roundup on talkSPORT with coverage sponsored by Tenor Men. You're not the only one looking for a solid defence down under. Upgrade your protection. Visit tenormen.co.uk today.
So it's all set up for a win for the Lions perhaps today, which would seal the series victory over the Wallabies. After a 27-19 victory in Brisbane, it would mean a victory today would hand Andy Farrell's side an unassailable 2-0 lead in this 3-match series. Australia, though, well, they're going to be desperate to hit back and put in a much, much better performance. Joining us to build up to this one, we're joined by our rugby reporter in Melbourne, Alfie Reynolds. Alfie, how are you?
Alfie! Morning, Natalie. Morning, Tony. Welcome to outside the MCG here, where 90,000 plus are going to be here for this second test. It should be a brilliant occasion.
Alfie, I wanted to start because I noticed something in the paper this morning, and I wanted to get your opinion on this because it's in the Telegraph and it says union is dying in Australia and Schmidt doesn't seem to care. And I was thinking, that's a harsh thing to say about Joe Schmidt, who's the coach of Australia. Is that a fair point?
It's a really interesting... Well, it's really interesting this week. Now, on the team news day on Thursday, the Lions and the Wallabies actually clashed. So I went to the Lions, but speaking to a number of the press pack that went to the Wallabies, they were really struck by how downbeat Joe Schmidt has been, not just on Thursday, but in this series generally. After the defeat in the first test, he was speaking about the fact that this is an experience, that the team will get better from this. We're growing. We've got a couple of games against South Africa in the Rugby Championship coming up, and it is one of those things that you feel like this should be the priority. The here and now, it is a Lions series. It comes around once every 12 years, whereas you do feel like Joe Schmidt has half an eye on the future. And I just wonder what Phil Ward, the Chief Executive of Rugby Australia, would make of it, because this Lions tour is being billed as the start of a golden decade for Australian rugby. With the Lions tour, they've got a home Men's World Cup in 27 and then the Women's World Cup in 2029. But the noise is coming out from Joe Schmidt almost don't give you that feel. So yeah, I can totally understand why that's been picked up by the British press, for sure.
Crikey, if you hear from David Campese, he'll be saying, well, he's a New Zealander, that's why he doesn't care about Australia rugby. But anyway, we'll move on from that very quickly. Let's talk about the Wallabies, though, because it is all on them to ensure that the series goes to that third test decider. When you look back at what happened in the first test, have you seen enough from that perhaps they can save the series in Melbourne?
Well, they will definitely be better tonight. They have to be. I was quite disappointed with them in the first test. It ended up not being a totally comprehensive scoreline because the Lions dropped off in the final 20 minutes. I thought the Lions had that game won after about 50 minutes when they scored that try right at the start of the second half. Australia have to be better tonight, and I think they will be. Their team selection points towards that. They welcome back in Will Skelton and Rob Valentini. That bolsters their forward pack, and they've gone for a 6-2 split on the bench, 6 forwards and 2 backs. So they are trying to adapt and deal with the power game of the Lions, which they just couldn't deal with in that first test. So they will be better. Are they going to be good enough to beat the Lions? They will be underdogs again here. In a way, I hope they do win, just so we get that series decider. In a 3-match series, you want it to be one game all, and it to come down to that match. But I tell you what, the Lions have been brilliant so far on this tour. They were brilliant in the first test, and maybe we'll see that again, and they'll wrap this thing up tonight here in Melbourne.
What would you have made of Andy Farrell's team? Because you said they were brilliant in the first test. Do you expect them to keep in that vein, Alfie? Because, you know, everyone suggested it was going to be a 3-0. It looked like that after the first one. So are you expecting pretty much the same?
I think so, yeah. I was really impressed with the Lions, in particular the way in which they started that game. Now, there's two sides to any story here. I think the Wallabies will be disappointed the way in which they went up against the Lions in that first half an hour. They just couldn't stop. They couldn't really deal with them. But you would expect the same again from the Lions. They've made 3 changes for this game, but you're bringing Andrew Porter into your front row, who is a world-class operator. Ollie Chesham comes into the second row, Bundy Aki into the centres. They have such strength in depth here, the Lions, that I do think the Wallabies will be a lot better, and who knows on the night if they can harness the psyche of being the underdogs at home, pride on the line, series on the line. Maybe we will see a Wallabies performance that the Lions are the ones struggling to deal with. But certainly coming into this series, the Lions were the favourites. Off the back of the test last weekend, the Lions are the favourites again here tonight. You would back them to wrap up the series, but let's see.
And with the changes, the personnel changes that Andy Farrell has made, you sort of touched on it already, that the Wallabies sort of came into it in the second half when the sort of substitutions had been made for the Lions. So do you think the bench now is strong enough that if they're called upon by Andy Farrell, that we can have a full 80-minute performance from the Lions?
Yeah, I think a lot of the adjustments that Andy Farrell has made for this game, in particular on the bench, is to cater for that final 20 minutes where they did drop away. So I mentioned that Ellis Genge is on the bench. He started last week, so him and Porter have switched, and Genge is playing some of the best rugby we've ever seen him play, I think. He brings you such dynamism and energy off the bench. You've got Owen Farrell, who's been named, which I know is always a controversial selection, but in terms of the leadership and experience he'll be bringing off the bench, that's only going to be a good thing for the closing stages. Blair Kinghorn as well. I think you look at the Lions bench, it's a stronger bench this week, and I think that is a reaction to the drop-off we saw in the first test.
Alfie, look, we've got to be honest here on this. The Wallabies have to do something about Finn Russell. You know, he can't be allowed to control the game like he did last week. He was absolutely pivotal in every moment of the Lions.
Yeah, and I think the way they do that is actually fronting up better in the forward pack, Tony. They were just utterly blitzed from a physical point of view in that first half last week, and if you've got a fly half of the quality of Finn Russell, whose forward pack is making ground on every single carry, that is giving him a platform to almost do what he wants. And the opposite is true for the Wallabies. They couldn't get any forward momentum, and when you've got a young guy like Tom Liner at 10, what's he supposed to do with that? He's not going forward, they're on the back foot. So I think ultimately they have to stop that in the forward pack, which speaks to the players they've brought in and the physicality they'll bring. It speaks to the 6 forwards they've got on the bench. And one of the things that I was most disappointed about the Wallabies last week was I was thinking this is the first test of a Lions series at home. It comes around once every 12 years. As I've said already, this is apparently a golden decade to save the sport in this country, and they look flat. They looked really flat. So I think tonight, more than anything, yes, we know the Lions are the favourites. On paper, you'd look at the two teams and you think the Lions still look stronger. But emotion can get you a really long way in rugby. We didn't see that last week from the Wallabies. They have to bring that today to meet the Lions at the game line, to match them physically.
Yeah, they certainly didn't feel as though... Well, we talked about it before, how it felt like they were undercooked going into that first test, the Wallabies, so we have to see a market improvement from them, certainly. Alfie, enjoy it. Thank you for being with
Alfie.
us.
Pleasure. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
That was Alfie Reynolds, who is in Melbourne covering the Lions for us, and that was all thanks to Tenormen.
Qatar Airways Lions Tour Roundup on talkSPORT with coverage sponsored by Tenormen. You're not the only one looking for a solid defence down under. Upgrade your protection. Visit tenormen.co.uk today.
You're tuning into GameDay Breakfast here on talkSPORT. We're live on YouTube, smart TV and your radio, of course. It is the former Republic of Ireland striker Tony Cascarino who is with me, Natalie Sawyer. And this morning we are looking out for your messages with regards to the player that might have left your club, that left you heartbroken or even angry. And loads of you have been messaging in with those particular players. For example, this is from Lincoln Steve, who says, when Gareth Ainsworth left John Beck's Lincoln City's Crazy Gang in 1997, everyone there was absolutely gutted. He used to party hard with the supporters back then. That doesn't surprise me at all, that Ainsworth. That's quite funny. And then he actually goes on to say, Steve Wicks, who Amanda, the Chelsea fan, joined us earlier, she mentioned him about how heartbroken she was when he left. He was Lincoln's manager before the John Beck era.
Right, wow.
How funny. Yeah. What else have we got? No name on this one, but Van Persie when he left Arsenal for Manchester United. Manchester United. Arsenal had paid his wages for years with him being injured for most of them. He had one good full season and then left. Oh,
do you remember when Alexis Sanchez left Arsenal? What a troubled move that was, wasn't it? Oh,
and this one, Yusufa. I'm listening in Spain. The player that broke my heart was Paul Scholes when he retired from football. I'm a Man United fan, yeah. That also is part of the story as well. The players then that left your heart broken. This is what Z, the Chelsea fan, who left us a voice note, had to say on WhatsApp.
I would have to say, Thiago Silva at Chelsea. He honoured the end of his contract. We were happy to let him go. But his goodbye video was so amazing. There's just something so affable and likeable about the man. He felt almost like somebody that had been with us, like one of our own, as if he was a academy graduate like John Terry that had been there since he was a teenager.
Fabulous player, Thiago.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about him in the sense of the experience they lost when he left. I mean, you say that they're the Club World Cup champions now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the interesting part as well. When you clearly have a player who hasn't been there as long, but clearly built a connection to then put out a video that pulls on the heartstrings, which is what Brian and Burmo did. Was there at Brentford a lot longer, I must say. But yeah, that's kind of where this conversation sparked from after Brian and Burmo's goodbye video to Brentford. So keep them coming into us. 81089 is the text number. The WhatsApp is 03717 223344, where you can also leave us a voice note. Right now, let's bring you the latest odds from Coral.
The Coral Daily Download on talkSPORT with Coral. Proud sponsors of the Qatar Goodwood Festival. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Dave Stevens, good morning to you.
A very good morning, Nat. Cash, you must have left a trail of broken hearts all across the football landscape, given how many clubs you played for.
On and off the field, David.
You set him up for that, Dave.
You still haven't got over the fact which non-league club didn't sing a song about you? Crocken Hill. What were you thinking of? It's never too late to come up with a Tony Cascarino song, surely.
That and tracksuits, why not? Dave, have you had a celebration recently?
Yes, I got married.
Yay! Congratulations. I just wanted to check. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, nearly making the 3-week anniversary on Monday. So, you know,
it's lasting well then.
Defying all the odds at the moment.
So the odds 1 to 5 years, David. What price on 1 to 5? 2 to 10 years. What we got on the handicap?
If you think I'm going anywhere near that,
yes, very wise.
Don't know my missus.
Very, very wise. So what we'll do is we'll quickly move on. We were just talking about the Lions going into this second test. If they win it, the series is done. So the Wallabies, though, will try and at least improve on their performance from that first test and try and take it to that third test decider. How are we seeing this one in Melbourne, though?
Yeah, look, this appears to be the sentiment. Almost Australia have to play better. But as bookmakers, of course, we're not really that sentimental. And the Lions are very warm favourites to wrap up this series. In terms of the actual 80-minute betting, it's 1 to 4 the Lions, 7 to 2 Australia, 25 to 1 a tie. In terms of the handicap betting, which in rugby is often sort of more interesting, we give Australia a 10-point start. What was it, 9 points the difference in the first test? So, you know, we're expecting something similar. We heard from Alfie there that the Lions really were in control of the first test and then just, you know, let the intensity drop. And that's perhaps why the scoreline wasn't that flattering. So 10 points start to Australia, even money. Lions giving away 10 points, even money. But Australia are really up against it. They're 10-1 to turn this series around. England are just 2-5 to win it 3-0. So, yeah, as much as we expect an improved Australian performance and what's going to be 100,000 in the MCG, I mean, the atmosphere will be absolutely electric.
Yeah.
We're expecting this Lions side, who ever since that defeat to Argentina before they left for Australia, of course, they've had a 100% record, and we don't expect that to change today.
Well, we've got the King George Ascot in the racing, so tell us what your fancies are today.
Yeah, it's a brilliant week coming up. Obviously, we'll be down at glorious Goodwood next week for 5 days. We've got the talkSPORT, the breakfast team there for a couple of those days. But a brilliant week kicks off at Ascot this afternoon.
The week breakfast team, not the weekend.
Sorry, the midweek breakfast team. As a slip of the tongue there, Cash, you're absolutely right. Although you never know with Alan Brazil whether he turns up or not. So it might be you guys standing. But it all kicks off. A brilliant 7 days of racing kicks off with the King George at Ascot this afternoon at 4:10. Only 5 runners, but all 5 of them have won Group 1s, which is the highest level of racing. Calandagan, trained in France, has emerged this morning as the favourite 11-8 because all week he'd been co-favourite, joint favourite with Deanne Bruegel, who's out to 2-1 for Aidan O'Brien. Kalpana, a brilliant filly, she's 5-1. Rebels Romance for Godolphin 5-1. And even the 80-1 outsider Continuous is a previous St Ledger winner, which shows you the quality of the 5. So, yeah, ITV Racing, I urge any, I know it's a hugely busy sporting weekend, but just tune in at 4:10 and watch what should be a King George for the ages.
Oh, I tell you what, you need everything. You need your iPads, whatever screens you can get hold of to keep across everything. Because also, at Old Trafford, my goodness, England's top order have been delivering, haven't they?
I mean, you run out of things to say about this England side under, the Bazball era. Ben Stokes, obviously brilliant, but Joe Root, again, just an absolute legend, keeps piling up the runs. And England, after day one, India were favourites. No surprise now, England have turned it right around. They're 2-9 to win this, wrap up the series, 25-1. India, 4-1 the draw. We always say it under Bazball, the draw is hardly ever a player. I suppose a little bit of rain around at Old Trafford could have an impact, but how often does it, this England side or any test team really these days need a full 5 days to get a result? So, yeah, look, hats off to Joe Root. He just keeps piling up the runs, and England now in pole position to wrap up the series.
Right, we've got the women's final tomorrow.
Yes.
England versus Spain. Now, we know Spain are going to be favourites, but how short are they, David?
They're odds on, Cass. They're 8-11, which is fair enough. They are world champions. It is their first Euros final, of course, but England are the holders. And what I think we've all been so impressed with England, they've just found a way, and it's the old footballing line, isn't it? They're not playing that well, and yet here they are in a final. Now, if it all clicks for them, then the price they are, which is 17-5, so bigger than 3-1, that's to win in 90 minutes, could be a big price. I think the draw's a definite player. We've seen, obviously, England's last 2 games really go the distance. 11-4 the draw. In terms of the all-important lifting the trophy, Spain are odds on 2-5, England 7-4. Is it going to be nervy? Is it going to penalties? 9-1, England win on penalties. I know no one likes the thought of it, but I tell you what was great about this. I was in a supermarket yesterday, and they were playing Three Lions over the PA system in the supermarket, and people were walking around the shop singing it. I mean, it has, there's no question that this is getting bigger and bigger every year, the women's game, and this is fantastic. And it's one not to miss tomorrow evening.
Yeah. Very quickly, Dave, any player that's broken your heart?
Well, I'm gonna. If Jamie O'Hara's listening, he's probably gonna spit his breakfast out. Jamie O'Hara only came to Portsmouth for less than 1 season in 2010. He won Players' Player of the Year. That's how good he was. And then he just left us. That was it. Even voting in Players' Player of the Year wasn't enough to keep Jamie O'Hara at Fratton Park. But we loved him for the short time he was there. He got us to an FA Cup final against Chelsea, which Kevin Prince Boateng then broke my heart for another reason, missing a penalty. But that's a whole different story.
Oh, who would have thought, eh? I don't think he's got many fans. So
I think he wants Jamie to go racing next week. That's what he's wanting, David.
There's a much love for Jamie.
You're going to try and win him over on the Weekend Sports Breakfast. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, listen, enjoy Goodwood.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That's Dave Stevens from Coral. It's 18 and over. BeGambleAware.org. Please do gamble responsibly.
The Coral Daily Download on talkSPORT with Coral. Proud sponsors of the Qatar Goodwood Festival. 18+, gambleaware.org.
A very good morning to you. This is GameDay Breakfast. It's the Republic of Ireland's fourth highest goal scorer, Tony Cascarino, who is alongside me, Natalie Sawyer, as we take you through until 10. This morning we're asking for you to get involved in the topic of the players that have left you heartbroken when they've left your team. It might not be heartbroken because you're sad and sobbed, but maybe it's more because you're angry that they left as well. We've had a right mixture of people getting in touch. This one from Liam, Norwich fan. When James Maddison left Norwich, we were gutted. Also Wes Houlihan as well. Yeah. The homegrown Alan Smith when he left Leeds to Manchester United. Oh yeah, that was a hard one, wasn't it? Rich is also a Leeds fan. He talks about Cantona, the obvious one, but also mentions Gary Speed when he left for Everton. It's so hard, isn't it? Oh, Dodge in Doncaster. Do you have to remind me of this player? James Coppinger at Doncaster Rovers, a living legend for us, and he says Natalie will remember that Brentford game, that last game. I do remember it. I was there. We had the chance to score a penalty, which would have potentially won the game because it was near enough the last kick of the game. As it was, there was a fight between two Brentford players as to who was going to take it, and the player that took it missed it, hit the crossbar, and Doncaster went down the other end and scored, and they got promoted.
Yeah, I remember that.
Look where the two teams are now, though. I'm sorry, Dodge, but I do appreciate that James Coppinger. Yeah, I do remember that name. That was a name that haunted Brentford for a long time. And it's funny how there are just players that are synonymous with the team. And I do remember Coppinger at Doncaster, just in general, not just for that game, but just as a familiar name. Another Leeds fan, Rowland, says the worst ever transfer for Leeds fans when Eric Cantona went to Manchester United. So that's what we want to hear from you this morning. The players that broke your heart. You can either text us to 81089 or you can WhatsApp us on 03717 223344. You can also leave us a voice note. You might find that cathartic, releasing all that held in sort of anger or sadness when a player left. This is what Chris has left us on WhatsApp.
Me, when Kasper Schmeichel left, that was probably one of the most heartbreaking. It was, for me, the reason we then got relegated when we did, as well as other players just not performing. But I think losing him was probably the catalyst that started it.
So that's Chris, the Leicester fan. And you kind of, Kasper Schmeichel was one of those players that you felt got the club. He was really,
absolutely, yeah.
You know, one of those fans' favourite. You could just see it. And obviously, what happened with the owner, and he's talked about that, how he was running to the helicopter trying to do what he could to help, and obviously he was unable to, unfortunately. You got that there was just more to it than just a player in Kasper Schmeichel at Leicester.
Well, he's reignited his career, hasn't he? Because he went to Nice and he got left out and was on the bench a number of times in Nice in the French Liga, and then obviously he's re-established himself at Celtic. Done brilliantly well.
Yeah. So more of the same, please. We'd love to hear from you this morning. I think, was it 8:36, Cass? I don't think we've mentioned Manchester United, really. apart from Brian and Burn. But we didn't really talk about them, so we're going to talk a little bit about them right now. They've already got their pre-season underway. Had a goalless draw against Leeds in their opening match. Ruben Amorim's side have now travelled to the United States for the Premier League Summer Series tour, where they will face some familiar teams, including West Ham. That's tonight, in fact, as well as Bournemouth and Everton. Yesterday, Ruben Amorim held his press conference ahead of this summer series, and he says he's preparing his side for what might be a difficult season.
I think in any team, if you see the best teams in the world, you feel the bond between all the players, and I think that is really important. Then I think we need to remind ourselves how special it is to be in Manchester United. That is my feeling. Is the best club in the world. It should be for everyone that is on the pitch with our club. So I really like that feeling, and I really like to be in the group that is healthy, and we are going to suffer. We have problems, but that feeling of bonding from everybody, from the staff, from the players, with the technical staff is really important. I think it can help us to win some games that we are not performing so well, but something happened because the spirit is positive.
Okay, interesting comments there from Ruben Amorim, and in fact on social media he was trending for a little while because people took the bit where he said, "We are going to suffer," and they ran with that, Cass.
Yeah.
Do you think they're right to have made that into the story from what we heard there from Ruben Amorim? Is he is this a language issue, or is he true about they're going to suffer?
Yeah, I think what he's trying to say, and he's used the word suffer quite often, hasn't he, in many different occasions, and I would take it that he's hoping, and also in a positive sense, that failure and suffering and and fighting and proving people wrong is one of the biggest challenges he's had, but he's seeing it as a positive that we've been through these bad times, and hopefully this year, and he uses the word suffer and it gets a little bit lost in translation. Sometimes words don't exactly, from his perspective, I mean, he's not perfect in English, but he speaks well. But I think sometimes he chooses that word that people are taking in the wrong context. They're making out it's a lot more bad as if this season's going to be suffering and suffering, and it's all okay. I just feel that it's got a little bit lost in translation.
Yeah, do you know, you're absolutely right. And I'm actually going to say something that I've just used the word. Sometimes we have words you fall back on.
Yeah.
I always say absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of my... It's just silly throwaway word that I just sometimes use. Now, I'm not saying that is exactly the case with this, but this could be a word that he, as you say, uses more often than he probably should.
Yeah.
But
and maybe not in the right...
Slightly in the wrong context.
Yeah, in the context that he's... Yeah.
And I get you, exactly what you're saying. Now, he says we're going to suffer, we have problems. I don't think he's necessarily...
I think he's missing, we're going to have problems.
Yeah, I don't think he's implying that we're going to have as bad a season.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I just think he's saying that, look, there's a lot of issues still to be resolved at Manchester United anyway. Marcus Rashford, we know, has now moved on. Yeah. Season-long loan at Barcelona. There are still a number of players that they want to move on. They still have a lot of work to do to rebuild, to get themselves back into the top six picture after what was a terrible, terrible season last season for them. But I think that's all he's talking about. It's more of a... It's not a catastrophe. Well, we're just in a rebuilding stage.
Yes. Now, I would look at it. If I imagine what I've known many managers to do, or coaches, that they will list a load of issues that they think are problems. And there might be 50 problems on there. But what's the most important ones? You had the top ones. Like, obviously, Rashford was one of the top problems because it was a high earner, a player that was underperforming. He had gone on loan. He knew he had to move him on because he knew he couldn't use him within the structure of his Manchester United. And there would have been others in that list. They've used the word bomb squad, players that have been pushed aside. I would imagine Amorim's got a number of issues at the end of the season that he's gone to and spoke to the board and said, we've got to resolve these problems. These are the highest on the agenda, and then work down. Because this club has fallen a long way now. We all know. Manchester United fans know how much their club has fallen. But he's made some big decisions, the type of player that he wants to bring in, like Mbumo, like Cunha. They're two good signings. Both of them are athletic. Both of them are technical. Both of them get goals. And I think he recognised at the end of last season, we are not scoring enough goals to be a successful team. We have to play. Last year, Nat, they were quite negative. You look at their goals for and goals against column, it's ridiculous, of how many goals they scored last year. It wasn't just about over one a game. That's from a club that's always set the standard of goals.
Yeah, they scored 44 goals last season.
So it's just over one a game, which is nowhere near. That gets you nowhere. That's not even a mid-table team.
And conceded more as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So
I get it. I get it why it's getting a little bit lost. Look, it changes nothing. Start the season, they play Arsenal, I think, on the opening game of the season, don't they? And they get beat 3-0, and he knows that there's massive challenges at this football club. So you can use as many words as you like. You lose football matches, it becomes irrelevant. But I do think he's trying to do the right thing to build the football club.
First 5 games for Manchester United, Arsenal at home, followed by a trip to Craven Cottage to face Fulham. Then they host Burnley. Then it's a Manchester derby to look forward to. And then they host Chelsea as well. So...
Do you know one signing I can't believe they've not done? Because I would have thought he was perfect for the way that Amorim... Anthony Robinson. Left winger.
Well,
I can't believe they didn't do that one.
I mean,
or even attempted.
It's a bit of
an
issue for them, isn't it? Yeah.
I think that area. Luke Shaw. He's had so many injuries. Are you hopeful that he gets a full season in or a number of games?
Yeah.
I would have looked at. I can't believe no one's gone in. I'm sure there has now. Teams have gone in for Robertson, but I think he's one that I would certainly look at for Manchester United. I think he's them all over.
Well, he had a terrific season last season, didn't he? There's no doubt about that. And the interesting thing as well that Ruben Amorim has been saying something again that is echoed by a lot of people. You've said it many a time, is that with Cunha and Mbumo signing, these were players that wanted to sign for Manchester United.
Absolutely.
I know that sounds bog standard obvious, but his point was they had choices, he thinks and suggested, of other clubs, yet they chose Manchester United, and that's the start of the rebuild. These players wanted to join us, want to join this project, knowing that there's no European football to look forward to. Yet they've kind of bypassed those clubs that might have tempted them with European football, and that's what the other thing he was saying about, I just want players at the club that want to be there. So the ones deemed the outcasts, that they'll go in time, whenever that is, they will go because they don't want to be there, and he doesn't want them there either for that reason, and that's important as well. But it's all part of the rebuild.
It's paramount.
Yeah,
that is for me a massive point, that they've actually had the hunger and desire to sign for the club. And people might go, it's the money. No, they wanted to play. And he has all echoed that by his press conference, that they wanted to join Manchester United.
Well, I know also Brian Mbumo said that he grew up wearing a Man United top.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fulfilling maybe something when he was young that he always wanted to do, to play for Manchester United. Because obviously it had a massive pull then. It still has a pull for many people. Maybe not as much as we think it used to have, but it still does for a lot of players, because it's the Red Devil on your shirt and all that, and the history of that club. I get it.
You could probably make the point that a number of players, without naming names, haven't felt like they've wanted to be at that football club or wearing that shirt.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair point.
Well, yeah.
And it goes back quite a long way.
You're probably right. Keep your views coming into us on the players that broke your heart, by the way. Really interesting to see those that have got in touch this morning with regards to those particular players. Just to read out a couple more before we hit the break. I've already mentioned this player once, but I'll mention him again because Greeno, the postie, has said, when our local boy Ollie Watkins left Exeter to go to Brentford, he was ripping it up for Exeter. He was doing great things, certainly. Alexis Sanchez joining United because he was dreadful. That's from Liam, who is a Manchester United fan, so broke your heart for different reasons. And we've had A number of Leeds fans get in touch, mostly about Eric Cantona or Alan Smith, but this one from Paul says, Harry Kewell to Liverpool. I'm more angry than heartbroken.
Yeah, big one.
Yeah. 81089 is the text number. The WhatsApp is 03717223344. Next, we'll cast our eye on Old Trafford and the cricket. Good morning, this is Game Day Breakfast with a man who has the freedom of the French city of Nancy, Tony Cascarino, and me, Natalie Sawyer, as we take you through until 10 o'clock this morning. Here are some of your headlines today. Lewis Hamilton has admitted he is massively frustrated but refused to explain what caused a surprise spin that knocked him out at the first stage of Belgium's Grand Prix sprint qualifying. Wrexham have reportedly approached the former Manchester United midfielder Christian Eriksen, who is available on a free transfer to join them in the Championship. And Fulham's Tom Kearney has signed a new contract extension, meaning he'll now have been at the club for 10 seasons. Crikey.
Do you know one of the amazing things about Kearney? He's played for Scotland now. Do you know how many caps he got?
Not many.
2.
Yeah.
How can he not have made more than 2 Scotland appearances?
Yeah, that's an odd one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I remember this was something you've always picked up on.
Because I think he's a fabulous footballer. I mean, that's him, very gifted. Tom Kearney is one of them players you give the ball in really tight positions and he can find a solution. You know, and I've seen him play really well for Fulham on a number of occasions.
Yeah. Well, he's been speaking to talkSPORT about obviously this new deal at the club, but also about perhaps trophy success coming the way of Fulham.
You always look at the next step. I mean, we got the records points tally last season, and then you always want more and more and more. I feel like for Fulham, for me, I think a cup final would be a dream. I mean, we had the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. We lost one goal by an amazing Liverpool team, which was we felt sorry for ourselves for a few weeks, and then we had the FA Cup quarter final that, to be honest, we didn't perform well in on the day. We can't ask much more as a home tie to get to a semi-final, so I feel like they are the next steps, but I feel like we have to keep our feet on the ground. This is our only 4th season out of the Championship, you need to remember, and we need a good start. I feel like once you have a good start and you have a good base, you're in a good position, then you can start to build. But yeah, I see as a fact from a fan point of view, you look at Palace, you look at Villa, and you say, why can't that be us? Well, they didn't know reason, but we've got a lot of work to do in between.
Can you see that then? Could you see them?
Never really thought about it because Fulham have been improving, but in small margins. But they're a good side when they're on. Unfortunately, I was at both Palace games that they won this year at Craven Cottage. I watched Palace winning the cup and watched them in the league game. I watched both games, and Fulham couldn't find an answer to Palace. I think there's a gap there between what Palace were last season and what Fulham were. They're, you know, in my opinion, I thought they just. When Palace got better, Palace had such a dreadful start to the season, didn't they?
Yeah.
But once they got going. And I can see where Tom's coming from. It'd be great for Fulham. I mean, when was the last time they were in a final? I mean, I remember the final, was it 75 when they played West Ham? Was it West Ham 75, something like that? I'm sure that they
bit before my time, that
yeah,
one.
I think so. Well, I'm talking when I was a young kid, but I'm pretty sure someone will probably tell me now they played a final in another year. But I can remember them being in that final.
Yeah, of course. And look, they'll also remember the days of being in Europe as well. Not that long ago, really, when you consider. So there are loftier ambitions, but then again, so obviously most clubs do have ambitions of doing really well. Hey, you talked about having a good start. They've got Brighton away as their first game, followed by Manchester United at home. Then they've got a West London derby with Chelsea, followed by 2 home games, which is Leeds, and then another West London derby with Brentford, the visitors, this time around. So Tom Kearney saying they need a good start. Well, those are the kind of fixtures they've got coming their way. Let's turn our attention, shall we, to the cricket now, Cass, because Joe Root's brilliant 150 has put England firmly in control heading into the final 2 days of the 4th test at Old Trafford. It was a landmark knock from the former captain, not just for its quality but also historically. It means he's moved up now to 2nd on the all-time list of test run scorers, overtaking the likes of Rahul Dravid, Jacques Kallis and Ricky Ponting in the process. England closed on 544 for 7. That's the lead of 186, and now look well placed to seal the match with taking an unassailable, 3-1 series lead as well. So, looking ahead to this one, joining us is talkSPORT's cricket reporter and also Fulham fan, John Norman. How are you, John?
Hi, John.
I'm good. Good morning to you. Thanks for the Fulham chat. 2010 Europa League final. That was our last final.
I was thinking there was a Europe final in there as well. But yeah, you must obviously love what you were hearing there from Tom Kearney.
Well, he's a legend, isn't he? He's actually my son. Unfortunately for him, is a Fulham fan, and he's got 2 Fulham top. Well, he's got a lot of Fulham tops actually, and he's the goalkeeper now. So he's got Leno on the back of his goalkeeper Fulham top, and his outfield Fulham top has got Kearney on the back. So there you go. But no, it was great to hear him. And also, what you didn't play in that interview was that he was saying that Fulham's biggest rival is Brentford, not Chelsea.
Oh. I knew Natalie didn't have much love for Fulham. I knew that.
Well, standard. Why would I? But I quite like the fact he said that, because you often get some Fulham fans, we are not our rivals, and then they turn up to the G-Tech giving it all the big one. But anyway, we move on. Let's not start the rivalry already.
No, not at all. I've got to ask you, John, because obviously Joe Root's been in all the papers today. He's going past Ricky Ponting, who called him the little boy when he first knew him. Well, he's certainly not a little boy now, is he, Joe Root? He's right on Tendulkar's heels. OK, a couple of thousand runs, but he's still 34, relatively young enough to manage it, to get past Tendulkar.
Yeah, absolutely. Ravi Shastri, who used to play with some distinction for India, he's a former India coach, now broadcaster, a very bullish individual. He's not one to shy from a big statement. He actually found it preposterous a notion to even suggest that Joe Root won't go past Sachin Tendulkar. Joe Root, fitness aside, I mean, you never know what's around the corner, do you? But you know, Joe Root's missed 2 test matches since he made his debut back in 2012. So in 13 years, he's missed 2 games. And one of those was because he was dropped, and one of those was because he attended his son, Archie, was born. So, you know, he's never missed a test because of fitness issues or form issues, because, of course, that is the other great thing, isn't it? Now, if you look at the form side of things, Joe Root's getting better. He's scored 38 test centuries, and the majority of them have come since he turned 30. That is absolutely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So, in terms of form, in terms of fitness, 2 things that you're never quite sure about as you look ahead over the years. He should do it. The other thing is, will he have enough opportunity? And this is the thing with Test cricket. It's only really England, India and Australia who now play enough of it to have a player at the top of that list. And very few, or if no one, plays more Test cricket than England. So if Joe Root stays fit, the form stays there, and he continues playing like he is for the next 3 years, he will go past Sachin Tendulkar.
Wow, what a feat that would be. And do you think, having obviously stood down as England captain, that has sort of given him this new lease of life, or is it just still standard Joe Root?
I don't think it's given him a new lease of life. I think he's just such an amazing character that he could deal with the rejection and the failure. You know, very few captains stick around.
Yeah.
It's difficult to be in the dressing room being captained by someone, you know, and also, you know, for all of this, one of the things I would say about Joe Root is we've had so much positivity showered on Ben Stokes' style of captaincy, and it's really kind of been a before and after you know, message that's come out. You know, look at the captaincy of Stokes, it's so much better than it was before. He's transformed this failing team. Well, who was the captain in that failing team? It was Joe Root. You know, and instead of sulking, instead of having a problem with it, instead of it letting it affecting his batting, he's just got on with it. I don't think it's fair, by the way. You know, he had to captain an England side under COVID restrictions, which was incredibly difficult. He had to captain a side which, you know, didn't maybe have the players that Ben Stokes has got right now. But he himself would hold his hands up and say, you know what, Ben Stokes is a better captain than me. That is the kind of guy he is.
John, got to ask you, because how do you think it'll pan out with 2 days left? Do you think England can get it wrapped up pretty decently, or still India are having a bit of a say?
Well, I think India look a beaten side now. You know, they look dejected. You know, their bowling hasn't been where it needs to be. They're missing a few players. You know, injuries to a couple of key individuals. They've gone uber defensive with their team selection, and it's really cost them. So I've got a feeling that England are heavy favourites to win. 2 days to go. You know, they can't lose this match. Looking out over Manchester now, you know, there's thick, heavy cloud, and this is where the luck has kind of gone England's way. They've batted in beautiful sunshine. India have only batted under this kind of like dank cloud, and it looks like they might have to do so again today. The ball is keeping low. There's a bit of variable bounce. I think England's bowlers are better suited to this pitch. They've certainly been more consistent. It's very, very difficult to mount a case for India surviving this Test match.
John, very quickly, any Fulham player that's broken your heart?
Yeah, loads of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always when they leave, because you know what it's like, you're going through it now and that, but it's when they leave, isn't it? Like Jal Palima going, that was, at least we got good money for him. Harvey Elliott going was a tough one because we didn't. And we just didn't see enough of him. Louis Saha going to Man United. Oh, that was a killer.
Yeah, big one, that one.
Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah.
And there'll be a few more as well, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
He's staying. So that's great. 10 years, that's pretty impressive. You don't get that.
No, that's mightily impressive, it has to be said. Brilliant stuff. John, as always, great. Thank you very much.
Cheers, John.
Cheers, guys. See you later.
That's John Norman, who will be part of our team up at Old Trafford as we bring you live ball-by-ball commentary of the last two England v India Test matches to overseas audience on our talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. That starts with this Old Trafford one. You've got Steve Harmison, David Lloyd, Jared Kimber, Neil Manthorpe, Siddharth Munga and John Norman as well. OK, in the last hour, we'll continue our build-up to the Lions' second test in Melbourne and speak also to a Lioness legend as well.
The Lions. Real-life fantasy rugby, bitter rivalries set aside in a quest to create the world's best team in weeks. There's nothing like it, but who on earth had the idea and how did it all begin? Incredibly, the first Lions tour was organised and funded by three men who played in England's first ever Test cricket match: opening bowler Alfred Shaw, opening batsman Arthur Shrewsbury and captain James Lillywhite. The 1888 Lions squad, then made up of 17 English, 4 Scots and 1 Welshman and a Northern Irishman, took a 46-day boat trip to New Zealand before heading to Australia. The Lions weren't alone on the boat. Also on board were 300 stoats and weasels who were brought over to eliminate New Zealand's rabbit problem. The first ever Lions captain, Robert Seddon, died of drowning midway through the tour while sculling on a river. Andrew Stoddart, who was another of the cricketers there, took over and was the star of the tour. The next one was the first to get official recognition from the RFU against the newly formed Springboks. Although the Lions won the series and beat the Boks again 5 years later, in the 12 series since in South Africa, they've only won 2. New Zealand has proved an even tougher hunting ground, just the 1 series win for the Lions in 11 attempts, which came in 1971. And then there was that nail-shredding drawn series in 2017, only the second in Lions history. Only once have the Lions clinched a series after losing the first test, 1989, when David Campese's infamous ghost pass was pounced upon by Ian Evans. Before World War II, the Lions had a dark blue strip, which on the 1930 tour forced the All Blacks to play in all white. So in 1950, the iconic red shirts, white shorts and blue and green socks combination was born. It remains the symbol of the greatest alliance of adversaries in all of sport. To borrow the phrase from Jim Telfer, the Lions is Everest.
Good morning, this is Game Day Breakfast. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and with me is a man who can not only score goals, he could do a nice shampoo and set as well. That's Tony Cascarino. The British and Irish Lions are looking to win the series with victory against the Wallabies in Melbourne today. Coach Andy Farrell has been speaking about how important this game is then.
We're the privileged ones that get the opportunity to do something special and hopefully create a bit of history. There's a determined Australian side that's in our way that's going to try and stop us to do that, so it's a hell of a test.
That's live on talkSPORT, as are the Lionesses tomorrow, as they are through to their 3rd consecutive major final and they're looking to avenge their World Cup final loss to Spain. Even Serena Wiegman is baffled as to how she's been so successful.
I actually don't know. I think I've worked with incredible people, staff, incredible football players. And what I'm just trying to do is create an environment where everyone can be at her best and at his best too, because I'm trying to do that with staff too, and create this environment where we take action and mistakes are part of our journey.
That final then tomorrow. And Formula One is back in Belgium this weekend. Here with more on Saturday's qualifying is Tom Clayton.
Well, after Formula One came back from its mini summer break, it kind of picked up where it left off from. Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, the fastest driver on the grid by about half a second, especially when it came to sprint qualifying yesterday. He's way ahead of Max Verstappen, who's down in second, and Lando Norris is in third. The Ferrari of Charles Leclerc is in fourth. His teammate, Lewis Hamilton, even get out of SQ1. He's going to be starting in the bottom 5 for today's race. Now remember, it is a sprint weekend this time around, so it means we'll have a race at 11 o'clock today that's the third of the length of the normal Grand Prix. Then this afternoon we'll have proper qualifying ahead of the Grand Prix tomorrow. We'll have live updates throughout the weekend on talkSPORT.
And we're hoping you're going to get in touch this hour as well on the players that broke your heart or made you angry after their departure. Many of you have been getting in touch. There are so many, in fact. I'm sure I'm missing a fair few too. But we've had Gareth Ainsworth has been a player that's been mentioned a few times already. Will in Sheffield has gone for him as well. Broke my heart when he left Lincoln for Preston. He always gets a brilliant welcome at Sinsel Bank, though. Also, Fernando Torres from Liverpool to Chelsea. That from Richard said that one hurt. We've also had, there's no name on it, but as a fellow B, this person says there are 3 for me. Dean Holdsworth, yes, I know what you mean. Clayton Donaldson was so sad as wanted to see him come up with us in the Championship. And Maney Rolls-Royce Sawyers, Romain Sawyers, who was probably one of the most talented players we had seen at Brentford. And when he left, obviously we were devastated because we wanted to see the best of him, and he never really got to see the best of him again. And that was the real sadness of that one, because he was such a technically brilliant player.
Yeah, I mean, you never know where players' careers are going to end up and how they do elsewhere. And, you know, some are obviously blighted by injuries. That can be an issue for many a player.
Yeah, that's true as well. And this one says, Terry Curran leaving Sheffield Wednesday to join the Blades in 1982. Broke my heart. Christine, the Sheffield Wednesday fan, says, I mean, to join the Blades as well. Yeah. That is a killer blow. I hear you. Keep them coming into us. Let's quickly get to Kevin, though, the Manchester United fan who's left us a voice note on WhatsApp.
Well, I'm still sick about Scott McTominay going. I'm a staunch Man United fan, and it still, to this day, makes me feel sick.
Kevin's going for Scott McTominay.
Yeah. It's amazing how well he done at Napoli last year.
Brilliant.
I mean, look, a lot of, obviously United fans will still say that he's was a good player for them, but I don't think they'd have realised that he'd go to Italy and ended up winning Serie A and having a big...
And they adore him there, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, fair play.
Okay, let's bring you the latest transfer news, shall we? There's lots doing the rounds. Happy to say joining us this morning, it's our transfer correspondent, Ben Jacobs. How are you, Ben? Good morning.
Good morning, I'm good. How are you?
Very, very well. Already we've been chatting Alexander Isak. Interesting what's going on with him. Not involved in Newcastle's trip to the Far East. Wants to explore his options away from the club, so it's been said. So what's the latest on him, do you think?
Well, Eddie Howe, as we heard in the bulletin, has been speaking and said his position hasn't changed, that he remains confident that Isak will stay. But crucially and interestingly, there are no contract extension talks ongoing at the moment. Howe added, potentially that may change. And I think we're in a situation of two extremes here, where either Isak is going to have to extend or leave. Liverpool are quite cautious about the situation still. There's a lot of noise, but I think so many steps have to happen before we maybe get this British transfer record bid. One is obviously the exits of Luis Diaz and possibly Darwin Núñez. 2 is Newcastle finding a replacement, and 3 is the price. And if it's 150 million or more, then maybe Liverpool don't see value, because they could always come back again in a year's time. If it is 120 or even 130 million, maybe the door is open. And the other quite intriguing thing was Hugo Ekitike did his first interview at Liverpool and essentially said that he's not just a number 9, he can play wide, he can play on the left-hand side. So there is, in theory, a stars aligning, Ekitike plus Isak, Liverpool bidding, but it might mean Newcastle and Chesco. It might mean that you have to have 100-odd million coming in for Diaz and Núñez. So when you sort of add it all up, it's clearly a complicated situation. Yeah. But I think this is a saga that will run right until the end of the window.
Ben, it sounds like a lot of ifs and ands there, doesn't it? If this happens, that happens, and, So it's a tricky one to get over the line. But there's Newcastle are linked to, Visa, Sesko, and Larsson has been mentioned as well, hasn't he, at Wolverhampton Wanderers. So... do you think that they're the 3, that one of them will come, or maybe even 2?
Yeah, even Openda as well at Leipzig. So conversations have taken place with both Openda and Šeško. Šeško, I think, at the moment is the #1 target for Newcastle. And people will naturally think that if they get Šeško, it opens the door for Liverpool and Isak. And I think there may be a grain of truth to that. But again, I think Liverpool are almost just admiring from afar until they realise there's potentially a right time in the market to move. I don't think they want to get sucked in until there is a circumstance in which either there's a price for Isak or a replacement for Isak, and they know that they're probably the only ones that can do this deal because Isak doesn't want Saudi Arabia. So they can be quite calm about the situation. They don't have to dive in straight away. Then for Newcastle, they've started talks with Šeško. It's an expensive deal, but if they are planning, even if they don't admit it, for an Isak departure, they can obviously afford it. I think it's not gone unnoticed on the market either that they put £70 million down for Hugo Ekitike unsuccessfully because he went to Liverpool. So there is some money there for Newcastle. Openda's the other one, like I say, they've discussed at Leipzig. Wissa talks are going to continue this weekend. Newcastle feel that an offer in excess of 30 million may stand a chance. Brentford sources say 40 million plus. And then, like you say, Larson is an interesting one that kind of came out the blue. There is some substance, but there's no club-to-club talks. So maybe that advances, but I sense they're going to go all in on Šeško first, then try and get Wissa in addition. And if they fail on one of those two targets, maybe they'll then pivot to another name.
All right, let's move Newcastle to one side, shall we, and chat about some other clubs that are looking to do business. Tottenham, well, we had the Morgan Gibbs-White story for a little while. That seems to have kind of gone away for now, but it does look as though they're trying to bring in another sort of midfielder.
Yeah, I think for Tottenham, they still would like to get Morgan Gibbs-White over the line, but there are legal complications. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. On the one hand, Forest could take legal action or have the Premier League investigate. But if nothing happens, Tottenham could go back and say, we're going to trigger the clause and we're going to challenge you legally to fight that this is an invalid approach. So I don't think that saga's over yet, but obviously Morgan Gibbs-White is now training on the pre-season tour. He's not chosen to sit it out like Isak. João Paulinho is another concrete target for Tottenham in addition, and that could develop over the coming days. And then there's still a chance, at least, that Tottenham say they want to enter the race for Johan Wissa, which would be bad news for Newcastle United. Wissa's open to Spurs or Newcastle, so there's no indication that if Spurs enter the race that it's dead for Newcastle, but it would create a bidding war and it might help Brentford get the price they're looking for. So Tottenham are still going to be busy. João Paulinho, former Fulham player, of course, one concrete possibility. Morgan Gibbs-White not over yet, and still at least a possibility as Newcastle try and advance on Wissa that Spurs might enter that race.
Is there any sort of surprise that other clubs haven't come in for Morgan Gibbs-White now that they know what this release clause is?
Yeah, I think Nottingham Forest's perspective would be that now it's out there and in their eyes, allegedly illegally, the clause is kind of invalid. Right. So I think any club, because they haven't learnt about it directly via Nottingham Forest, even if they say they've had no bearing, Forest may come back and say it's in the public domain. It's been done so in their eyes in a way that hasn't respected the conditions of the clause, and therefore they may not honour it for anybody. And I think that's why, even though it's a very appealing number, at this stage anyway, nobody else has entered the race. But somebody may come and say, well, now we're going to bid 61, which is 1 million more than you get if you trigger the clause. And that might lead to club negotiations. So don't rule out that kind of approach.
Oh, gosh.
Ben, how have transfers got so complicated?
I know. Gives me a headache.
I understand, Ben, because years gone by, okay, they still took time, but the modern day transfer, it feels like you've got obstacle after obstacle on a transfer.
Yeah, and the Gyökeres one is a great example because we know the add-ons, as we revealed yesterday on talkSPORT. And if you actually look at the mechanism of a deal, everything from the fixed fee, the payment terms, the bonuses, which are tied to goals, not just goals, in fact, but contributions, so assists as well, qualification for the Champions League, and they're all split in these different incrementals spread across 4 or 5 years, plus your sell-on clause, and in the case of Gibbs-White, a release clause that is only valid seemingly under certain conditions if you go through the front door and Nottingham Forest tell you about it. So then when you think about negotiations and fans maybe saying, just get it done, just pay the extra 5 million. With Gyökeres, Andrea Berta didn't pay the extra 5 million. He actually waited and got it for 5 million less. So in hindsight, you understand why these clubs take their time. And I'm sure it was the same with Manchester United and Brian and Mbeumo as well. So, yeah, you're right. The modern transfer is highly complicated. When people negotiate, they do so through lawyers rather than always football people. And from my point of view, it means a lot of phone calls, a lot of headaches, and hopefully we can keep you up to date.
Well, see, just one quick word.
Go on.
That's why I only got bonuses for goals at one club, Marseille, so I decided to get a lot. All the rest of football, I'm not scoring for you. You're not giving me a bonus.
Quite, yeah. There you go. Prolific as you were. Tony Goal, as he was known. Listen, we don't want to give any more of a headache, Ben, so rest up. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
OK, on the way next, we've got to cast our eye once more what's happening in Melbourne, where the British and Irish Lions will be looking to seal a series win over the Wallabies, which is live on talkSPORT, well, in over an hour. tuning into Game Day Breakfast on talkSPORT. We're live on your radio, YouTube and smart TV. It's the former Aston Villa and Celtic striker Tony Cascarino who is with me, Natalie Sawyer. And the British and Irish Lions are looking to seal a series win over Australia as they head into the second test at the Melbourne MCG today. After a hard-fought 27-19 victory in Brisbane, Andy Farrell's side know then one more win will be enough to clinch an unassailable lead. The Wallabies, though, well, they'll be desperate to keep this series alive to force that decider for next weekend. Joining us to look ahead to this second test, someone who knows what it's like to pull on that famous Lions jersey, it's Alex Cuthbert. Alex, good morning. How are you?
Alex.
Morning, guys. How's it going? You all right?
Very good.
Very, very well. You're there. You're in the stadium. Can hear the music going. How is it? Is the atmosphere building, or is it still a little bit slow to get going yet? I presume it is.
No. It's been building. I was at the Lions Den earlier on, and I had a good 25-30 minute walk in, and the amount of fans out here is crazy, and it's really building. It's pretty empty in the stadium at the moment, but. Yeah. My God, it's a massive stadium. 95,000 people they're expecting here tonight, and it's going to be some atmosphere. And hopefully, we get a game to give it, give it what it deserves.
What were you expecting, Alex? Because once you've played the first game, that's out the way, and the Lions have won. And then you go into the second game. Expectation is same as. That's never the case, though, is it? It's always going to be different.
Yes, always different. Obviously a couple of changes. The Australian side have got a few new faces coming in, some big fellas coming in that needed, because they got pretty beat up last week, and the expectation on the Lions is obviously win, but the pressure is obviously on Australia to stay in this test match and really make it a real proper test match for the Lions and put the Lions under pressure. That's what they're after. That's why they put it in a stadium with nearly 100,000 people. There's going to be a lot of Aussies on here supporting them, so this is their one opportunity, and obviously, if they don't turn up, it's a 2-0 whitewash, isn't it? And the series is done.
They were underprepared, it felt, for that first test. They only played one warm-up game, I should say, coming into this test series, the Wallabies. So in terms of the players that Joe Schmidt has picked overall with the 15 and the bench as well, do they look stronger with their personnel changes?
Yes, definitely stronger. The likes of Rob Valentini, a guy called Will Skelton. He's 150 kilos, about 7 foot tall. He's going to make a bit of a difference, I think, in the front row, in the front five there. So, and a lot of these Lions boys have played with these players before, like Will Skelton used to be at Saracens, and so they know how strong they are. But what I think the one question for me is that Australia have gone 6-2 split on the bench, so they've gone for an extra forward, one less back, which makes me think that they obviously are not quite 100% fit, because they weren't rushed in to play the first test, but they seem to be sort of parachuted in for this test to really make a difference and obviously keep Australia's hopes alive in this test match.
Alex, what have you made of Joe Schmidt? Because obviously coaches in Australia, I'm sure the media's been giving him a difficult time because rugby union is certainly on the back foot compared to Aussie rules and rugby league. So tell us how you're seeing it from his perspective.
Well, I know Joe Schmidt in terms of when he was at Ireland, how detailed he is, how good a coach he is, and obviously he has got some players with him, and they are a lot better, Australia, than they have been the last couple of years. And I think there's probably some comments, I think we were on about probably Campo's comments last week in terms of he doesn't quite understand the Australian culture and the way they play, but I think that's a load of rubbish, really. I think rugby is just not one of the main sports in Australia at the moment, and until they start obviously putting bums on seats and getting people excited, people back into the game, then they're always going to struggle for players, aren't they? So, but Joe Schmidt for me is the right coach for Australia. He's proven worth. He's got absolute amounts of experience he's had with Leinster and Ireland, and there's success as well, so it's only going to take a bit of time, and obviously people just sometimes are a little bit impatient.
You know what it's like to be part of a Lions tour that toured Australia in 2013. You were part of the team that obviously won that first test in Brisbane as well. So what was it like going into the second test, knowing that you were a win away from a series victory, but also knowing that Australia were bound to come back harder and stronger?
Yeah, that was the conversation. We won the first test, only narrowly, obviously, but this test now is the one. I think we spoke about all week how Australia are going to come out swinging. You know, the first 20, 30 minutes, they're not going to lie down. They're, you know, the typical Aussie, gritty sort of fashion, the way they go about things. They're going to throw everything at this game, and it's about managing your emotions and getting the details right, not trying to get into sort of, you know, they want to get into your head throughout the game, and they just want to stay in it. So Lions will be about doing what they're fundamentally well, so their set piece, kicking well. What they did well last week is just trying to keep doing that over and over again and put Australia back on under pressure.
Are you going to call it, Alex, for us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the Lions will win quite comfortably tonight. I really do. I think the bench that they picked, you know, likes of you got obviously Owen Farrell back, Kinghorn. I think they're going to be a bit more settled than last week and not let Australia back into the game.
Well, look, enjoy it, Alex. Bring the Lions the luck they need to get the series done then. And appreciate you being with us, Alex. Thank you.
Cheers, Alex.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
That's Alex Cuthbert then, who is in Melbourne. We're part of our team as well, bringing you live commentary of this second test. And what is a must-win for Australia if they're to keep the series alive? Very quickly, just some messages about the players that broke your heart. Let's get to them, shall we? We have had Dion Dublin. He's been mentioned a few times already, leaving the mighty Coventry for the despised Villa. That's from Tony. I love the venom in there. Rich says, as a Palace fan, the hardest for me was Wilfried Zaha leaving on a free for Galatasaray. However, he says that one worked out best for us. The hardest, though, was Julian Speroni retiring. There you go,
Yeah, the
Rich.
keeper, yeah.
Appreciate that one. What else have we had? We've had so many. It's been brilliant, some of the messages that we've had, really enlightening us as well. Oh, God. Oh, no, I'm not reading that one about the missus leaving me for the milkman. Let me just... It's a very good one, actually.
Well, he delivered, didn't he?
Well, he did deliver. You're quite right. This is what Andy has said from Wolverhampton. I was gutted when the missus left me for the milkman. Her reason was I was obsessed with football. I was gutted. I'd been with her for 3 seasons. Very good.
Yeah,
I love that one. So, yeah, keep them coming into us. What's this one? Alex Haleb from Arsenal to Barcelona. I bet he regrets it. So says Davers. I think it's Davers. What about this one? Michael mentions when Gaza left Tottenham for Lazio. Oh, yeah.
He had that serious injury before he went, didn't he? He had a rehab before he went to Lazio because he got injured in the FA Cup final.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. Against Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
This one says, just making, okay. Oh, Sean from Sunderland, Tony Cascarino broke my heart in 1987. Scored 5 goals over 2 legs for Gillingham against Sunderland in the playoffs and got us relegated.
Yes.
Never, ever forgiven.
Yeah.
Don't go to anywhere near Sean from Sunderland.
No, that still there's a fond memory. Unfortunately, we lost the final against Swindon. We won 1-0 at home and lost 2-1. We won 1-0 at home and lost 2-1 away, but the away goals didn't count.
Oh, I remember you said this story. Yeah.
Madness. We had to go to another game.
But it counted in the previous round.
In the previous round, because we won 3-2 and lost 4-3.
Yeah,
but our 4-3 on the away goals, we knocked out Sunderland. But in the final game... Against Swindon, we won 1-0 and lost 2-1 away, but the away goal didn't count. How mad is that?
Yeah, no,
harsh.
It is harsh. Keep them coming to us. We've had so many, and I'm going to pause it there because we've got so many and I need to read them out. But on the way next, we are going to cast our eyes on the Lionesses once more. Good morning, this is Game Day Breakfast. Pleasure to have your company this Saturday morning with a man who once won the Evening Standard Player of the Month award. That's Tony Cascarino. He is with me, Natalie Sawyer, and we're with you until 10 today. We've been asking for you to get in touch this morning with the players that broke your heart, whether it's because they left on good terms or maybe because they actually angered you. Loads of you have been getting in touch about it as well. The reason we're talking about this is because I mentioned earlier on that when Bryan Mbeumo sealed his move to Manchester United, he put out a video on social media, and I happened to be in a car park as I was going to head to a supermarket, stopped off obviously in the car park. For some reason I was looking at my phone. I must have seen something about Mbeumo's signed and sealed or something, and then went on to Instagram, and there was this video that he put up, which was his goodbye to Brentford after 6 years at the club, and I just bawled my eyes out. Couldn't believe it. I had my 14-year-old son next to me, and he's looking at me like, why are you crying over this, Mum? But I was like, you don't know what it means. Ed, you're out of order here, Ed. Honestly, you know when Ed's on, because Ed plays all these sneaky little things. But anyway, yeah, I was kind of like that. I was sobbing my heart out because I just felt as though this was a player that's grown up with us. Yeah. And we've seen him flourish and fully worthy of the move. But yeah, it just kind of got to me. So that's what we're asking for, these messages this morning. We've been asking for texts or WhatsApps or even voice notes. This is what Gucci has had to say.
Gooch the Pompey fan, living down in Barnsley. I don't know about players, but I remember when Harry Redknapp left to go to our neighbours at Southampton, everyone was absolutely gutted at the time. Couldn't see why it was happening. Obviously, he then became Special Agent Harry when they went down, and the rest is history.
Special Agent, I love that. Gooch, I should have said, not Gucci, it's Gooch. Love that. We've had Sean from Taunton say when Teddy Sheringham or even Dimitar Berbatov joined Manchester United. Yeah, I can see that. There was Thierry Henry has been mentioned when he left Arsenal in 2006. I was angry and I still am. That's from Paul. That's the other thing as well. You sometimes can't get over it. You just can't get over the move. Chris, the Sheffield United fan. A few years ago, the end of contracts of the trio at Sheffield United, Ollie Norwood, Chris Basham and the late George Baldock. Was so lucky to see them play at their peak. Yeah, that's nice as well. And Liam Brady's been mentioned a couple of times. This one from Brian, who says, when he left Arsenal to go to Italy, my favourite player, it hurt then and it still does. Yeah. Can't get over it. Sometimes Liam just can't get over it.
Liam was terrific in Italy. Also in Arsenal, but was terrific there as well. Yeah.
So it's just sometimes you can't get over it. And I've just seen this one as well, which is Matt, the Charlton fan. When Scott Parker left us for Chelsea, we'd just beaten Chelsea to go fourth in the Prem, sitting in the Champions League spot. And Chelsea, with all their millions, snapped him up. We finished 7th that year.
I think they've paid about 10 million for Scott. Something like that. It's about 10 million.
Right. Yeah. There we go. Right, we'll read some more out as we get closer, obviously, to the end of the show. So you've still got time to let us know your players that broke your heart in one way or another. But we're going to turn our attention right now to the FA's Made for This Game campaign. Is a platform to inspire participation, but to also shift perceptions and remove the barriers that continue to hold women and girls back from football. And nobody, as you can imagine, embodies that mission better than the Lionesses. It's an unprecedented period of success that the Lionesses are going through as they prepare to play in their third consecutive major final, which is live tomorrow on talkSPORT. The on-pitch success, as you can imagine, has translated into huge growth off it as well. Inspired by the Lionesses, a new generation of women and girls are stepping forward to play, coach, referee, volunteer, basically just getting involved in any way that they can with the game. Joining us to discuss this more is the FA Head of Development, Stacey Mullock, and former Lioness legend, Rachel Yankee. Good morning to you, Stacey and Rachel. How are you both?
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning.
So lovely to have you with us.
Yeah, well, first of all, I've got to ask you, or either Rachel or Stacey can answer this, but, you know, being successful in tournaments and going deep and winning, you know, obviously the growth of the women's game is going to soar, and that's exactly what we've seen.
Yeah, I think I'll take this one. We've seen unprecedented growth off the pitch, as well as kind of the success that we've had with the Lionesses on the pitch. I think we've doubled participation in the last 4 years. We previously had about 1.2 million female players in 2021. That's gone to around 2.7 million. So definitely inspiring the next generation of players. Women that have kind of previously may not have had the chance to play at school are coming into the game, not just playing, but from a coaching, a refereeing, volunteer perspective as well. We've seen huge growth over the last few years, and long may it continue.
So tell us then a little bit about this Made for This Game campaign and what you hope you'll achieve with it.
It's our new campaign. We launched it in February. Some of you might have remembered the Let Girls Play campaign that we had previously. But we're at the stage now with how women and girls are perceived in the game. There is no need for us to ask permission anymore for us to play. I think everyone, no matter what background you are, what age, what size, what ability, there is room for you in this sport. It doesn't matter whether you want to start playing football for the first time, you might want to have a go at walking football, you might want to take up a leadership qualification in school. There is room for everyone, and I think that's what Made for This Game is really about, and it seems to be driving momentum. We've kind of seen lots of activity over the last 4 weeks in particular. But yeah, this is about inclusivity for anyone that wants to get involved in football at any level.
Yeah, it's incredible because I take myself back to when I was a player in the 80s and then the early 90s. And then we saw a massive uprise in the quality, the technical side of players, and also the information that coaches are given to improve the game. And that's exactly what's happened in the last couple of years. I remember Euros in France when England had a really good side. But that England team seemed to have developed a long way in that time, in that short period.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, we have to look at the investment that's been put into obviously the national team and, the support and even like you look at the league over here now, the investment, the visibility, everything like that, it all makes a difference. The players will know, just like when we played, we knew if we could win a major tournament, if we could get to the final, how it would change perception, how it would, really uplift the next generation. I think these are key things for these players that yes, they're going out there because they want to win personally, individually, as a team, they want to win, but they also know the bigger picture of how much it will drive and, allow the next generations to actually play and to feel like they belong within the game. And I think that's definitely something that obviously this campaign is all about, but we've always wanted to push. And if you're successful, it's a lot easier to push it.
I mean, what's also great for both of you really is that we're seeing with the broadcasters, they're kind of listening to fans as well. I know, obviously, we've seen with the WSL, they've had Sunday evening games, but now it looks like they're changing those kickoffs to maybe make it more friendly for families to go to. Earlier kickoffs, like midday, sort of 12:45 kickoffs, for example, which is much more appealing in a way for fans, Rachel, to make sure that young families can go and we see not only are we seeing the development on the pitch, but we're seeing the growth of the game off it with fans.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why, this campaign is so important as well, is that we've got to look at it as not just trying to find the next generation of players. It's actually the next generation of leaders within the game. Because I think you have to look at women's football as a different space. Actually, this is a game that we can mould. And the difference is like what you've just explained. You look at the clientele who's coming to the games, if you're looking at it as a business way, well, actually, those kickoff times didn't support that. So let's change it. There's no reason why we can't do that. And I think that's why it's really important to make sure people feel that they have a place in the game, they belong in the game, their voice is valued. And obviously we all know for young girls and for women, actually building confidence and the life skills you can have through playing a team sport, especially football, it can really push and within your, you might not become a footballer, but might go into a job elsewhere, but those life skills can be born through playing the game of football. And that's why, again, these campaigns and grassroots clubs and everything like that are just so important.
Look, you don't have to go that far back, and Lyon were fantastic in the women's game, Barcelona likewise, and then Arsenal go and win the Champions League. So, Rachel, you're looking at the improvement of the women's league in this country.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's fantastic. I don't think anybody, definitely at the beginning of last season, would have ever said that Arsenal were going to go and win that Champions League. So, it just shows that obviously Arsenal, in terms of the league, weren't the best team in the league. Chelsea were, but they found a way to win. They made sure that they used everything within their power to go and win that Champions League. And fingers crossed tomorrow in the final, England can find a way to obviously win that game, because they're up against the world champions. It's going to be tough, but they're there on their own merit and right and success, and it's it's impressive, to be honest, to get to 3 finals in a row. That's an achievement in itself, which I feel very proud of.
Yeah, but as we pointed out with that Champions League final, most were thinking Barcelona would come away with the victory. Arsenal, though, got the better of them and won that one. And Stacey, what do you think winning the Euros, retaining the Euros, will mean for the game going forward?
It's just a real opportunity for us to put a spotlight on the game. I think everything that we try and do from a grassroots perspective is around showing girls that anything is possible, and you have to kind of see it to be it. So having the profile across all of the media channels over the last few weeks, and particularly this weekend, there are going to be so many little girls that will watch this game for the first time and think, actually, why can't that be me? These girls that are on the pitch are like me. They're very relatable. They're very, they're just inspiring to anyone that feels that football could be for them. But as Rachel said, it doesn't have to be that you are the most talented player. There are so many roles within football that this tournament can just amplify for us. I think we've got a job now to make sure that those opportunities exist for girls that want to play. We've done a huge amount over the last 4 weeks with grassroots clubs opening their doors to girls football for the first time. For many girls that might want to go and have a bit of a taster of it, our job now is to make sure that there's those opportunities, those coaches, those facilities are ready to take on the demand that we know is going to come, hopefully following the success tomorrow night. But either way, girls are inspired already. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm sure another massive audience will be watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen, obviously, attendance figures for this tournament alone breaking records, which is fabulous to see. It's only going to get better and better, we hope, as well. It's been a real pleasure to chat to you both. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
That's Stacey Mullock, the FA Head of Development, and also former Lioness there, Rachel Yankee. Both doing great things to improve, well, just the growth of the game, really, it's growing massively. We know that.
Sport, and I always refer to golf on this. Is that you're building for the future. So when you're a player, whether it's golfer or whether it's a footballer, that you've got to leave it in the great hands afterwards. So you're passing it on to the next, generation. And this is what they're doing now. The team now is taking it on to the next generation of players that will come through.
And the point that Stacey said there, and it's echoed so many times, you've got to see it to believe it, and you to be it as well. And it's so true. There will be young girls, hopefully, tuning in tomorrow and believing
all the time now.
But believing, I want to do, and I can do that. I can actually make a career. That wasn't really a thing when I was growing up. And I know Rachel Yankee's of a similar age to me, and obviously she did have a footballing career of sorts,
but not like they're having
now. Not now. No. She was obviously having to do multiple jobs, probably, as well as doing her football as well. So it's just simply amazing. And for those that are listening right now and thinking, oh, here we go,
what an opportunity for them.
That's all it is. We're talking about opportunity. No one is saying it's the same level of game. No. Absolutely not. They're very, very different, but you can still appreciate what is being done by these lionesses who are just paving the way for future generations to enjoy a sport that we all love. Basically, we all love this game. And if you're lucky enough to be able to play it to a good standard, like we're seeing with the Lionesses and also in general,
and to have a career. It's possible you can have a career.
I don't know why we're not just cherishing that and saying this is what we want to see, more of that. Just embrace it and just go with it. But don't have to compare them. They're not the same. They're very different. But we can still, enjoy the highs and also suffer the lows too. But that's sport, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. We'll be bringing you that final live on talkSPORT. Adrian Durham and the team out in Switzerland for that one. Okay, we'll have more of your messages in just a few minutes on the players that broke your heart and a little bit of Natalie Sawyer too. Good morning, this is Game Day Breakfast. The former Republic of Ireland striker Tony Cascarino is with me, Natalie Sawyer, with you until 10. All this week, talkSPORT is asking, what is the nation's second sport? We know football reigns supreme, especially here at talkSPORT, but what sport is the next best thing and why? Whether it's boxing, cricket, darts or MMA, these sports need your vote. If you'd like to join the discussion, then just head to the Dugout. That's talksport.com/dugout or via the talkSPORT app as well. It's been the talk of the office, so we're led to believe.
What's the second biggest?
Yeah.
Well, mine's easy. You know what I'd
Hang on, I know, but let's hear what Dean Saunders has had to say.
I know what
he's thrown his weight behind what his second favourite would be.
Hi, I'm Dean Saunders, and I just want to give you a couple of reasons why I love golf. When we play football, we were bred to win every day, and then at 35, when you're too old, you can't run anymore, so you need something to compete at. Most of us either find the bookies or we find golf, where we can still compete and you can play against yourself, because you never get to the bottom of golf. You think you've cracked it, but you haven't. But when you stripe a couple of balls down the fairway out the middle of the club, it's not as good as scoring a goal, but not far off. That's why I love golf.
Yeah. You'd have said golf as well, wouldn't you?
I'd have gone with golf, yeah, and I knew Dean was going to say golf before. Yeah, I heard it. I love the sport. I love the etiquette of the game.
Yeah.
It's just, you play like I did yesterday, Nat, and it's a beautiful day, and you're with friends, and you can even have a couple of. He says you find other things, but you have a couple of drinks on the course as well.
It's a good social sport.
It's a great social sport.
Yeah,
and it's a game that people in their 60s can play and still play to a very high standard. I played against a guy the other week. He beat me. He was 84. I'm not a great golfer. I love watching the game. He beat me.
Wow.
Beat me, and I was actually annoyed because he beat me. He was 84.
He's 84.
Yeah.
Was this 18 holes?
Yeah. He beat me. He was 84 now, but he was chipping it everywhere. Kept stiffing it literally 3 foot from the hole when he was. It was like. Oh, he's doing my head in. So I'm going to lose to an 84-year-old.
That's incredible.
But he was good. His name's Bob. But people who know who I'm talking about, he's at Woodcote Golf Club, and I played in the same game as him, the same team.
Love that.
And he beat me.
Love that. That's fantastic. I'm surprised Dino didn't also mention darts. Bear in mind he's the 2-time reigning champion of talkSPORT darts.
What's your second favourite?
I think I'd say tennis, actually.
Yeah.
I do love, obviously when all the Grand Slams are on, I'm glued to them, but there was a time when I was addicted to tennis in terms of when it was on the TV. What am I trying to think of? Can't remember the name of the channel that it used to be on. Eurosport, that was it. Used to just get up in the morning, first thing I put on is Eurosport and just watch the tennis all day, every day. I loved it. I kind of stopped for a period of time, but watching Wimbledon again this year and the French Open really got me back into it. So yeah. If you want to get involved, head to the Dugout on the talkSPORT app or via the website on talksport.com/dugout to sign up and join the discussion. There are fun prizes that are given away every month, and if you join now, you'll be automatically put into the next draw. It's over 18s only. Terms and conditions apply. You've got until 9 a.m. Monday morning, so do get voting. Okay, to the players that broke your heart. This is from Grizz, who says, I was devastated when Luis Suarez left Liverpool for Barcelona.
Yeah, big one.
This is from Brett, a Blackburn fan. Seeing David Dunn leave for Birmingham was such a shock, it broke us. I'm sure there's more to the story than we know, he says, but that broke my heart. This one is still sobbing. Forgive me, I don't know this player. Still sobbing from Jimmy Greenoff.
Jimmy Greenoff, yeah, Manchester United.
I don't know the name.
Yeah, well, it depends what club. What? Because Jimmy
leaving Stoke.
Stoke, yeah, I was going to say.
As a result of the uninsured roof of the Butler Street stand blowing off. I was 15. I'm 64 now and still refuse to utter the name of the club he joined. Oh, that's from David. I don't know that story. I don't recognise the name. That's not good, is it?
It was known at Manchester United, Stoke, yeah. Probably a couple of others that I can't remember.
Yeah, maybe so, yeah. This is from James, who says, Dwight York leaving Villa for Manchester United, gut-wrenching and still bitter memory. Loved watching him as a player. Jamie Mackey, when he left Exeter, I'm not going to say who he joined. Because that's not nicely.
Queen's Park Rangers, as a guess?
The pasty eaters is what it says. that was gutted from...
was that right?
No, the pasty eaters, he says. I presume is that Plymouth?
Oh.
Is that Plymouth?
Didn't Jamie Mackey play for...
Plymouth.
But did he not play for QPR?
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
I'm just... Bear with. Just Googling. Yes, Plymouth. That's who. What else do we have? Oh gosh, there was another one. Chris Waddle leaving Tottenham. I was distraught.
I was amazed no one said Waddle before.
Yeah. That's been mentioned. David Hurst mentioning Marcus Stewart being sold. We've had that before, didn't we? About Marcus Stewart being sold to Huddersfield to Ipswich. Ipswich then got the Premier League and Town stayed in the Championship. Oh, that's the worst when you sort of see them in a way you want them to do. I mean, I'm not biased in the sense of I don't mind them going on to do good things. I don't want them to have a terrible career once they left us, especially when you've got such an affection for them. But when it really, your team sort of stays where they are and that the team that they've joined have then got promoted, that's a bit of a moment. Let's hear from Slates, who's left us a WhatsApp message.
Michael Owen. Twice he broke my heart. First time when he left to go to Real Madrid. I was 12 years old. He was the absolute GOAT. And then he managed to break it again when he then went and signed for Manchester United.
Yes, Slates.
Yes, that would have upset a few Liverpool fans.
Yeah, it would have done, absolutely. Yeah, that's something you don't talk about, really. Heartbroken as a kid, this one says, when Ian Rush left for Juve.
Came back pretty quickly, though.
I know, he didn't last long.
No, he didn't. I don't even think he got to a year at Juve. Liverpool signed him from Chester for about 300,000.
Wow.
Imagine transfers now.
Yeah, that's just
300,000 in Liverpool.
Gosh, 300,000.
Yeah.
That's just a week's wage for someone now. Madness. Thank you so much for all your contributions. I apologise if I didn't get to read them all out, but you've all been brilliant in what you've added to us, so we really do appreciate that. That's it for us today. We are back tomorrow morning where there'll be lots for us to get through, where we review the Lions. We'll look ahead to the Lionesses as well as can they retain their Euros trophy. But as I mentioned, the Lions are in action next and we're bringing you that second test against the Wallabies live here on talkSPORT.